allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May the audience please be seated.
Thank you, Holden. I failed to mention that Holden is from Troop 1628. Okay, we'll move to communications. Bryce, you have anything tonight?
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a few items. Number one, Julie gave me a list of a few items. We hope that you're as excited as we are that Comcast has agreed to continue holding their Comcast Cares Days on the same days I Love West Jordan Day. Last year we had approximately 1,200 citizens come out and assist in doing things in the city. Comcast has challenged us to see if we can get 2,000 people this year. And so if with your approval we're going to move forward with that. They've even upped the amount of money that they put towards resources from $2,000 to $4,000. So I met with them with Julie, and they were just so complimentary of everything we've done. I hope that that's okay that we move forward with that. The other items, there's been discussion about having an enduro cross in the city, and up to this point in time it's not been successful, but we've pulled in Brian Green, who owns a business in Draper, talked to him about that, and there is an opportunity that we feel can be profitable for that. I won't say profitable, can be amenable for all parties and make a great event for the city. And so are there any concerns if we continue negotiating and bring that to the council for approval at a future time?
Anyone have any reservations of moving forward with this?
Okay. There's also some opportunities and discussions that we're having with them about other like BMX tracks and things like that. We'll sketch some things out and bring them back to you at a future time. The other things that I wanted to bring to your attention, I want to give my thanks to the Community Development Department and Building Inspection Department. After we had our last round of flooding, I went to them and said, what can we do on our part to be as proactive as possible to try to help citizens know what can be done to help reduce potential flooding on their homes and take initiative on their own part. And so they put all their resources together and put together this pamphlet. And so this will be available in the development department, but also online, that tells them about things that they can consider doing around their property and on their property to help make it less flood prone. And so I want to thank our staff for putting that together and being proactive. Also, if you weren't watching the news the other night, you may not have been aware that we had a little geyser at Bangerter Highway and 70th South. I want to thank our staff for their assistance. This is a Jordan Valley Water Conservancy District line. I don't know if you're aware, but there were 2 employees from Jordan Valley in the vault at the time that pipe broke and could have potentially drowned those individuals. So we're glad that everybody got out of there safely. And I just want to compliment our staff for their assistance in stepping in and taking care of that and assisting them with the cleanup. I got a call from Richard Bay, the director of the Water Conservancy District, expressing his appreciation for the services that we rendered. They are, to my understanding, going to repair the vault. Is that correct, Wendell?
They're going to build a new vault, actually.
Yes, and they asked us if we needed to bill them for our services. Now, these are things that our public safety people do all the time, and so I hope that I'm not out of line in telling them that, you know, because they help us and we help them on a regular basis, we did not intend to send them a bill for that. I expect that that will pay off in dividends over time, and so I hope that you're okay with that. The next item is we're getting ready to do some remodeling. If you have enjoyed our tape marks in this building, the joints and the glue that was left on them as we've been trying to hold it on over time, take a picture because it's going to be going away in the near future, and we're giving you some input on colors and things. And if you haven't had a chance to help Jim select colors, let us know, and we've got some models for you to look at and things, and we'll get working on that. We also, because of some other projects that came in under budget, are getting ready to do some revamping in the community room downstairs. We're going to, instead of having one long hall where people sit at the back and can't see all the way to the front, we're going to turn it the other direction and have 2 projectors with a narrower depth of field for people to see. We're going to put permanent projectors in there, upgrade the AV audiovisual equipment, and make it where we can make that more usable, repaint it and recarpet it, and create a closet so we can put some of the things into storage and it won't be so visible. So we're excited about how that's going to dress up the appearance of our City Hall and make us look a lot more professional. That's all that I have to share with you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff, did you? David Oka?
No report tonight, thank you.
Thanks. Tom Burdett?
Mayor and Council, I spent the afternoon at the Utah Transit Authority board meeting this afternoon in support of Boulder Ventures and the Jordan Valley Station TOD project. Mr. Jeff Eichtek gave a presentation to the UTA board on moving forward with the first phase of construction to wrap apartments around the 2 parking structures and complete the fascia on the other 2 sides of the parking structures. My role was to represent West Jordan and verify the ADL that's in place, the for the tax increment financing through the community through the CDA, verify the development agreement, and some entitlements that have been already accomplished with the preliminary development plan and subdivision plat. So we hope to hear back. I think the UTA board will discuss it in closed session as they're a partner in that development. And but I think everything is in place for them to move forward in a positive manner to support securing the financing and turning the first phase of that site over to the developer to get started. So I'll keep you informed as that progress moves forward. One of the key elements that we met on 2 weeks ago is coordination on the sewer line installation in Old Bingham Highway to coordinate the city's contractor with UTA's contractor, or I'm sorry, with Boulder Ventures contractor for our resurfacing of the road and their installation of the sewer line. So we're hoping that all comes together here fairly soon in the next 6 months. So that's it for me.
Thank you. Ryan?
Yes, just wanted to mention that we did a week ago go live on the financial module with our new ERP system. We've had, of course, like with anything that we've had some successes and we've had some difficult times as well, but we're working through that. We have so far in our purchasing module put over 400 purchase requests through, and 75% of those have been completed to the purchase order process. So we feel like we're moving forward. We've been complimented greatly by our consultants, as they've said we have been one of the smoothest transitions that they've ever had us go through, even though we did it in half the time of other cities. So a testament to all the staff that has worked on this, and of course all the staff working in the system right now. And we're appreciating the patience that we're having. We're working through the issues, and I feel like I said, it's going through very successfully right now. So we just wanted to give you an update on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Wendell?
Yes, I have a couple of things. First of all, we have several positions that we need to fill. 4 of the positions are new positions that were approved in the budget. So we have 2 water system operator 2s that we want to move forward with, 2 stormwater operators, and a wastewater operator 3, which became vacant due to a promotion. So unless the council has a concern, we'd like to move forward with those. The second thing is we're having a free document shredding and e-waste recycling event, which will be held on November 1st. It'll be in the parking lot behind the fire station here from 10 a.m. to noon. November 1st is a Saturday. So residences can bring residential electronic waste, TVs, cell phones, computers, monitors, plus whatever shredding documents that they'd like to shred. Then also, our staff have been working with Rocky Mountain Power on some incentives for changes that we've made to our water system. In this case, it's for well number 6. We've changed out the motor on that with a more efficient motor on it, and the rebate to us is $23,710. So Roger Payne's been working on that. Adam Favero, our utility superintendent, are responsible for that. Then the last item I have is last Monday, as part of the Corridor Preservation Committee, the city was awarded $316,000 for 2 different parcels along 78 South. And so we'd like to thank the council for your support and the staff for the work that they did getting that. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief McElraith? Chief Diamond?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. 3 items that I have for you. Just remind you about the UTA exercise that's going to be happening early Sunday morning from midnight to 4 o'clock in the morning. Again, that's Saturday night into Sunday morning. You're welcome to come out. That'll be on 78th by Gardner Village there. That will be working. The fire department and Public Works will be out there, as well as the police department. They're going to be lifting one of the TRAX trains off of the track as if they had to extricate somebody out from underneath the train. So that's that exercise there. You do have a agenda item 6F that talks about the road closure there. We just need to have that road closure to make sure it's safe there. We also have the masonry. It's just an update on Station 54. The masonry is pretty much done. The roof is pretty much over most of it. And we hope to have it totally enclosed by the end of the month and start with the interior work on it. So things are progressing very well at that station. And then also, just for your information, this past Monday, I was nominated and elected as the chair of the advisory board for this Children's Justice Center here in West Georgia, well, for the whole county, actually. So I'll be fulfilling those duties as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Council members. Councilmember Stoker.
Thank you, Mayor. Just an update on a few of the meetings that I've attended over the past couple of weeks. As Wendell mentioned, the Wasatch Front Regional Council had their Public Works Committee meeting where corridor preservation funds were awarded. West Jordan did very well during that presentation. In fact, at the end of the meeting, Mayor Colmore from Cottonwood Heights was speaking with, I believe, Greg Davenport, and said to him that West Jordan put together one of the strongest presentations of any of the cities, and that there was never any question that West Jordan was going to get the funding that they requested. So there was a lot of kudos to the staff. I know that Dave Clements was there, Dave Murphy was also there, but our staff put together an amazing presentation. Kind of keep a little quiet, but we received a little bit more than the average city got, and it was all due to the hard work and diligence that our city staff put together for those requests. The Wasatch Front Regional Council had their board meeting, and they discussed the CATS offer for public safety, and that's going to move forward. They're making sure that they're looking to make sure that all of the cities that are impacted are committed to moving forward with the RFP, and that looks like it's happening. Jordan River Commission had their board meeting this past fortnight, I guess you'd say, and they're preparing a program to, I guess, a public recognition program where they recognize cities that aren't being stupid, I guess, in the way they treat the Jordan River. And so, similar to the way that we've got the Tree City USA signs at the entrance of our city, they're looking to do a similar program that does, a Jordan River community, a Jordan River friendly community type of thing. That really just comes from a lot of the same ordinances and stuff that we already do. and it just kind of brings positive light to the things that we're doing already in our city. And then also with the Arts Council, the Theater Arts are holding their auditions for their summer show today and tomorrow night in the community room. That's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Sophomore?
Thank you, Mayor. A couple items. I was going to mention the Enduro Cross that is being bantered around, but looks like Bryce took care of that. But I would also say it's a neat opportunity for our city. I've watched those in Salt Lake, Juab, Utah County, and they've all been very, very successful. And it would be a great addition to the type of events that we put on here. So, a second item related to the Gardner Station. Last time we discussed this, I heard some comments from some residents that kind of run true with me. I heard that they were, not. They didn't feel like it was a perfect plan, but they thought that we could get there. And I left that meeting thinking, I wonder what we could do. And so I engaged them in that discussion. I think most of you are aware of that, but those discussions are going along very well and very positive. And I wanted to say to them and to both parties there that I've been impressed with how well they've come to the table and honestly talked about this and got their feelings out there. And I think we're getting closer to something that could bring resolution to the issue. So if anybody is interested in being a part of that, you're welcome. I'll give you more details too if you want to talk to me afterwards. But thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Nichols?
Thank you, Mayor. Just briefly, I'm going to condense about 6 hours of water board meetings into just a sentence or two, I hope. Really, they had two really strong presentations that came up to two general ideas that I wanted to share with the council so that you're all aware. And it's more of an educational process to know or to teach that water use is really not a seasonal problem for us. It's more of a growth problem. And we just need to be aware of that as a city. When water rates go up, it's usually because we're trying to grow. And it's that growth and that demand is what's raising water costs more than anything. If we were not to grow anymore, water rates would just go up a little bit here and there based on staff costs. But the difference is we're planning for the future, and that rolls into my second part, which is they're projecting that as a state, our Utah population will double by 2060. Therefore, there's a three-pronged approach that we're doing. This is the state working with the different conservancy water districts, and that's conservation, optimization, and expansion. How that relates to us is the state of Utah is already well on this path of the Bear River Water Project. And I don't know if you've heard of this or not, but we are deeply involved in that as a community, whether you know it or not. By 2035, Jordan Valley Water Conservancy District needs more water. We already know that. That's 21 years out, and we are in the plans right now to get that, and it's through the Bear River. This is a multi-billion-dollar project. Utah's portion of that, the state of Utah that is, as a government entity, is $1.7 billion. Our piece of that, Jordan Valley Water Conservancy District, is just 350 million-ish. The other issue is once that water gets there, we still have another piece, which is another $350 million to get that water from Weber to us here. So roughly, our stake as a district, as a water district, is $700 million by 2035. So I just wanted to throw that out to you. They've already they're looking at 7 potential new reservoir sites up north. They will probably select 2 or 3 of those. If you want to know more about those specifics, you can talk to me. There's a lot of detail. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Higa.
Thanks, Mayor. Just first of all, feedback from some of our residents. To Chief Diamond, I just have to tell you, we had some of your staff come and talk to some of the residents over on 70th South and about 11th West. They sent out a thank you to me, and they've noticed a difference. So I wanted to publicly thank you because they thank me, but it's really our staff. So thank you. The other thing is, involved Chief Diamond, Sim Gill was there, and it was a cold Wednesday last week that our South Valley Sanctuary folks have rebranded themselves, which in a new way. Instead of being a secret type of organization, now they're proud to say a new name, and that is South Valley Services. But I wanted to shout out West Jordan this way, because what happened last Wednesday is Sim Gill, our district attorney, praised our chief of police and the efforts that our department has done in domestic violence across the board. And that's a long topic, but for me, again, I like, those are things that as a community I think we need to hear, that we have one of the best police departments that's focused with another group to help domestic violence in our city. So thanks again, Chief. And for those of you who didn't miss it, or missed it, there was a few of you in the audience that was there, but it was praise West Jordan, and now some of the cities to our south, one particular already has signed up, is following our model that the South Valley Services has out of Riverton City. So another thing, if setting an example to other cities of how we can help those within our community. So anyway, appreciate it. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Hanson?
Nothing tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Thanks. Councilmember McConaughey?
Thank you, Mayor. This week I spent a little bit of time with some of the folks in the neighborhood north of 70th, in between 32 and Bangor, that have been prone to flooding issues. This time it was a little bit different issue, as Bryce mentioned, with the broken water main from Jordan Valley Water Conservancy. A lot of the folks that I spoke with had high praise for the quick and rapid response from our staff, as well as their professionalism. One family, Rich and Pat Rusk, asked that I read excerpts of an email they sent me, so I'd like to share a couple comments from here. I wish I could tell you specifically the names of the West Jordan firefighters who were so quick to offer assistance, but we didn't get their names. One came pounding on the door to alert us of the river of water that we had yet to notice. If not for his quick response and alert, we never would have been able to get ahead of the flow of water. Another fireman brought sandbags to throw down to divert the water, and then returned to crawl under our house to see if anything electrical had been damaged by the water and needed to be shut off. We never had to make any call for help. They just knew what to do. They go on to praise the folks as well with Jordan Valley Water Conservancy District, with Utah Disaster Cleanup, and point out how well our city officials and first responders were working with those other agencies and private organizations, and how that resulted in directly to them in the form of a minimization to property loss and damage. At the end they say, please convey our thanks and appreciation to any and all the West Jordan employees who helped out on Monday. As graduates of the West Jordan Citizens Academy, we knew we were in good hands from the start. So I just wanted to share those with, I know we had police, we had fire, we had public works, we had everybody pretty much involved with that. So thank you to all of them. And if you would pass on those comments, I would appreciate it, as would the Rusk family. That's all I have this week. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I had two items this evening. One is, does everyone know if they will be here on November 5th? That night will be one of the big nights. Does anyone know that they won't be here for that particular council meeting?
There's a good chance I may not be able to attend.
Okay, I'd rather know that now, because we may have to postpone for one more week one particular issue. So, the other is, I need to state that we need a administrative assistant now. I want to put it on the agenda for next council meeting to discuss that, but when one person goes on vacation on this floor, there just isn't enough staff to man it. So we need to decide what we're going to do for that position, and it needs to be filled immediately. So I just wanted to let you be thinking about that till next council meeting. It will be on the agenda for next council meeting. That's all I had. So now we will move to citizens' comments. I've had 4 signed up to speak this evening. We'll start with the first one. Clint Hutchins.
Mayor and Council, my name is Clint Hutchins. I'm a resident of the city, and I'm also the president of the Employees Association. Thank you for letting me take a couple minutes to address you. As you can all guess, you probably know the main reason I'm here is to encourage you to approve some sort of step and grade structure along with the COLA this evening. I'm kind of sad tonight that we don't have more co-workers here with us tonight, but I can tell you they're not here because they lack confidence that anything is going to change and things will go on as status quo. As you know, it has been years since we've had a significant increase in wages. I've had a number of employees approach me and tell me that their take-home pay is actually less now than it was 3 years ago because of health insurance increases. As public employees, we know we're not working here to make the big bucks, to get rich, to get wealthy. We're here because we enjoy serving the public. We love being part of this thriving city and helping make decisions and watch it grow and prosper. However, that being said, we also need to earn enough money that we're not laying in bed at night worrying about if we're going to be able to fill our cars with gas to get to work the next day or have enough money to provide dance and soccer lessons for our kids. And I'm here to tell you, this is not a sob story. This is reality. At the last council meeting, the mayor mentioned that now the economy is starting to pick up and more jobs are becoming available, we're going to start to see people leave. This is already happening. We have many well-trained, highly educated people working for the city who have stayed here through the tough times, but you cannot expect that to go on forever. I know for a fact many employers are beginning to feel as though they are being taken advantage of by providing their experience and education to the city, but not being fairly compensated in return. I don't think this is the message you want to convey to the employees. Please come together tonight and make a decision that is financially responsible for the city and fair to the employees. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve Jones?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I appreciate being here. I'm a resident. I live at 3234 West, 6920 South. Last council meeting, as I was leaving, I pulled one of the papers for the West Jordan Journal. Inside that was a well-written article that I was very happy with, except for one part. We seem to be still stuck on the fact of the flooding that we had on 70th South and 3200 West in that area in our neighborhood. We still seem to be hung up about understanding what a 100-year water amount is. So I'm here tonight to give you a little information so that it's on the record. All right. In 1999, Salt Lake County has already done a study very similar to the one that is being done by West Jordan. It's well documented and well versed, and it's public information on the internet. I found it in 5 minutes. I searched it from the standpoint of looking at it as from an engineering standpoint to decide, what those totals were. This is what they write in the very first paragraph. In 1999, the engineering division published the project report, Rainfall Intensity Duration Analysis, Salt Lake County, Utah. The project consisted of a temporal and spatial analysis of the rainfall to determine the intensity and duration for engineering and management purposes for the return intervals of 2 years, 10 years, and 100 years. Very well documented in there. The 100-year average for this area is between 1.3 and 1.35 inches in an hour. At my house, on my rain gauge, the first flood we had was at 0.3 inches. The second flood we had was at 0.78 inches. According to this document, the 0.78 doesn't even make a 10-year average. The 0.3 doesn't even make a 2-year average.
It is unfair, and it is, as far as I'm concerned, very poor to not take care of this problem for 30 years. Also, inside that document was some other information concerning what the flows were. And I noticed that on the report that was put out by the Public Works Department, and I apologize because I don't quite understand how some of this stuff ties together, but the numbers that they're putting out there to me look wrong. I mean, when I talk about 200 cubic feet per second, and it says that we should have a 30-inch line, that just doesn't, to the documents that I have, that doesn't look right. I'm begging with you, please correct this action. It is within your hands to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Stella and Lisa Larson.
First of all, Mayor and City Councilman, I'd like to invite you to my home. It's on 7800 South and 5200 West. We purchased the property in 1974. There wasn't anything out there but elk and deer and a skunk. And now it is like a freeway. It's been like a war zone. There's been construction of the road. There's been, the sewer's been put in. The fences are tore out. But one thing I need to say is it's improving the front on 78. I'd like to invite you out there and see the traffic. What we want, all these people have been talking about how wonderful West Jordan is. I'd sure hate for them to come out and see a fence that doesn't match the east and west. We need a sound barrier, trucks. They're building 300 new homes to the west. Smith's going in. Can you imagine what we're going to have out there? And I'm begging and pleading you for you to come, sit at my table, and watch what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Lisa Larson. I live next door to my mother-in-law, Stella, and our road that is getting developed on 7800 South, we put in the sewer, and the city has graciously put in curb, gutter, and sidewalk, and we were expecting to have a 4-rail fence that was already in existence be replaced, but in talking with an employee of the West Jordan City, they told us to go ahead and just approach the council to see if we couldn't ask for a sound barrier fence to match what's going up and down 7800 South, both on the east side, the west side, and the north and south as well. So with that being said, there's a lot of traffic that's going up and down there. It is going to be a main thoroughfare with Smith's coming in and everything else that's going on. We feel like that it would just be an added bonus to the city to have it all look the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Alexandra Ephraimov.
Mayor and Council, I'm going to say a few minutes here. Some issues just keep percolating. In 1992, I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong paragraph. I'm not perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, may we pause for a moment to reflect upon our common goals before we begin the business of this meeting. We are privileged to gather here together in a system that gives us freedom to participate in our own governance, whether from within or through the strength provided by our personal faith. We seek wisdom, understanding, fairness, and resolve in the fulfillment of our duties and in the pursuance of our goals. May our differences be respected and our common aspiration of promoting the public good be our guide in carrying out the tasks we're about to undertake. Thank you. I just want to say, please, please, please vote yes on 8B. The discussion again on regarding the implementation of the step and grade wage structure. It was 3-3 last meeting. I was devastated. You people have to consider the employees of West Jordan City. Like the previous person said, you don't want them to go elsewhere. I was appalled at that vote. I was ashamed of how that vote went. And I think Chief Diamond did an incredible job, 1/2 hour, relating exactly, step by step, giving an incentive to the people. Don't give them a flat check. But anyway, I would like to be on your committee, Councilman Southworth, on that Gardner Village. I am devastated. In the paper it said Colosimo has already shortened more of the parking space. The fact is the soil contamination, I know something's going to be there someday. I am 1,000,000% against it as it is. Don't let the attorneys for Colosimo bully you. Stand up, council people. That soil contamination is still there. Now we're talking about 78 South. There's going to be more traffic. It's not going to go away, no matter what you change a building or you put a few commercial places there. Safety is another thing. I can't believe it. 220 apartments in that little place. They're shortening the parking space. I am appalled. I am 1,000,000% against it, and yes, I'd like to come to your meetings, but believe me, before I even come, I'm going to voice my anti-protest, because I'm still, you can't change the soil. And thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, real quickly, just so there's no confusion, I appreciate your enthusiasm, but it's not an official committee, it's just an individual council member reaching out to gather information about an issue in the city. So, but I do appreciate your enthusiasm to be involved.
Councilmember Haga had a comment as well.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Personal privilege, if I could step down as a resident for a minute and address the council.
Please do.
So I address my colleagues as residents today, and you know, it's actually almost 10 years ago that a group of us did this. Well, it was actually 2005. And what I wanted to say to you, and I'll tell you first, I'm Jeff Haga. I live at 8778 South, 1850 West in West Jordan. And next to me is one of my co-applicants. I'll let him.
Mike Kellermeyer, 4852 Tickle Grass Road, West Jordan, Utah.
And we're two of 5 applicants that have submitted to the city by state law to distribute our initiative to gather signatures to allow a question to come on the ballot in November of 2015. And that is, shall West Jordan adopt mayor, full-time mayor, form of government, 7 council? And I just wanted to announce that in public and to the residents of West Jordan. Thanks, Mayor.
Just look forward to getting started. Now we can proceed. We do have the petitions. We'll be gathering signatures starting immediately. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak? Please come forward. Again, since you haven't signed up, please state your name and address, please, even though we know you.
President. Yes. Yes.
Are you speaking for a group?
Yes, I am. Okay. Thank you. All right. President Roy Todd of West Jordan Firefighters Local 4624. Mayor and council members, I want to thank each and one of you for paying special attention to our pay issues. And since last council meeting, I've had the opportunity to meet with Bryce Hatterley as well as Chief McElreath over these issues. And since then, we have been able to communicate very well and come to an agreement and the direction that the city administrators decide to go on after the implementation of the step process. I also want to thank Chief McElreath for meeting with our members and explaining how they came to the process or went through the process and came to a decision on presenting to you as a council the steps. And as a group, we understand that in an economic crisis, there may be a need to pause those step increases. It doesn't mean that we need to take it away, but we understand that in economic crises, there may be a need to pause it. We also understand and agree with the committee as they present to you and are in support of the 13-step. That is what we agree with. It is the best proposal that they offer to you, and we stand beside them on this. I want to thank you for representing the city of West Jordan, and I say let's continue to raise the bar that we currently have and let the other cities continue and follow in suit. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the council, please come forward. Again, state your name and address, please.
My name is Mandy Bastian. I live at 6934 South, 6115 West, and I'm here representing our youth theater. And we just wanted to make sure that you all know how much we appreciate the proposal of the new Arts Center, and we vote yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we'll close the citizens' comments portion of our agenda and move to item 6 on the agenda, consent items. I've had no one ask for anything to be pulled, with the exception of myself tonight. I would like to pull item D, D as in dog, for discussion. Anything else for anyone? A motion would be in order.
Mayor, I move to approve the remaining items on our consent calendar.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Southworth and a second by Councilmember Hanson. Discussion to the motion. Seeing none, let's vote.
Councilmember Stoker?
Yes.
Councilmember Southworth?
Aye.
Mayor Rolfe?
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Councilmember Hanson?
Yes.
Councilmember Haga?
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Vote passes 7 in favor.
Okay, item 7A, public hearing. Receive public input and consider declaring as surplus and disposing of city-owned property located at 7971 South, 1825 West, West Jordan, for the purpose of trading the city's property for Salt Lake County property located at 1970 West, 7800 South, West Jordan City. Jeff, you're up on this one.
I'm not sure why my name's on it, but for the benefit of the public, this matter considers whether or not the city should exchange the parcel that is behind west of our fire department here by City Hall for property which is owned by the county. It's the former county library property. And so that's what the public hearing is about. If you need more detail, I'll defer to Dave Clements. Dave's probably not ready to address it either, but we can wing it if there's more information needed. He does look good.
He's really dressed up tonight, isn't he? Councilmember Haga.
Yes, it's, that was brief, thanks, Jeff. But I want everybody to know that this has been an initiative by our mayor in front of our county council that I think we began And we, as a council, in confidentiality, agreed to proceed to acquire this property and trade the other property. So this has been a 6-month process, probably longer. And Mayor McAdams from Salt Lake County was in meetings along with 3 or 4 of our county councils. And it passed in the county as far as their approval from the library board, which is a totally different board from the county council, but also unanimously from the county council as far as the concept of changing these 2 properties. So I just wanted to add that. It's a long term. Our staff has worked diligently. We appreciate it. I can call out names and all that, but we know it's been a long discussion. So just add a little more background. Really, the credit's off to the mayor in organizing and facilitating major discussions on this topic. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? We will now open the public hearing portion of this item. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak on this public hearing item 7A? Please come forward.
Good evening, Dave Newton, 2555 Carson Lane. I want to speak in favor of this proposal for a couple of reasons. Number one, having a county health facility in our community here close in our civic center, I think is a boon to us and our citizens, and it will be of great value. And so I'm pleased that is happening. Secondly, you all know that I've been heavily involved with the arts for nearly 20 years. And we've been promised a facility for 19 of those years. And we see a glimmer of hope here that this might work out for us. So I think I speak for a good portion of the Arts Council and the arts community here, and that we support this 100% and ask that you do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Please come forward.
I am Christina Oliver, and I represent Salt Lake County, and I just wanted to express my thanks and gratitude for the city staff members. Bryce, you are an amazing leader. Thank you for working with all of us on the agreements, and it's been quite an interesting process. So much feedback. We are so excited to create this partnership with West Jordan. This is going to be, if approved, one of the most amazing facilities, and I think the crown jewel in Salt Lake County's health clinic portfolio. So we're excited to be part of the community and continue working together on creating a really, really, really robust, I would say unmatched in the entire Wasatch Front Civic Center in West Jordan. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Christina.
Mayor, I really, really want to compliment you on what is happening here. It's so exciting. As you all know, I spent a lot of money on litigation on not tearing down Sugar House Factory. And I had to fight, and it was political, and I lost by litigation. But now Mayor, I can't thank you enough. I'm in support of the arts, but because my heart and soul went into not tearing down Sugar House Factory, and that elevator where so many kids were able to go up the elevator, and there was nothing wrong with that other than spending some money structurally as far as earthquake assurance was concerned. I think, but now we waited patiently. I had to swallow my loss. But every time I go by that land, that empty plot of land where Sugar House was, my heart just stops. I think it's just been a terrible political thing that happened. A couple politicians pushed it and were successful in and tearing it down without having it come, I think if it came before the vote, before the people of West Jordan, you would never have seen that sugar house factory go down. But it's in the past and it's exciting. And Mayor, I really compliment you and the staff and everybody that's been involved. And Mayor Newton, God bless him. I mean, he's been pushing for the arts forever and ever. And I always said he was my favorite mayor, but now I have to say I have two favorite mayors, Mayor Rolfe and Mayor Newton. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on this public hearing item this evening? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing, and I would just like to make a comment, and then I'll allow council. I believe that it would be the right thing for this council to move forward on this tonight so that we can discuss item 8F to its fullest. I hope someone will make a motion to declare this property surplus at this time. Councilmember Stoker.
Yeah, Mayor.
Yes.
We don't have a resolution that we prepared, so we need to bring a resolution back to council. So you may want to move that to the next meeting. We can then have a resolution.
We can't just approve it to be declared surplus as a council body?
You can move to do that, but we still have to have a resolution. And we could bring it back as a consent item, but we don't have a resolution tonight prepared for this.
Okay, we can't approve a resolution, but we can, so we can't have a vote on it tonight?
You can vote to bring it back.
As a consent item then? Okay, that would be the direction. Okay, Councilmember Stoker, thanks for that. I thought we could do it a little different, but thank you.
I move that we direct staff to consider the property as surplus and dispose of the city-owned property located at 7971 South, 1825 West, for the purpose of trading the city's property for Salt Lake County's property located at 1790 West, 7800 South.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Stoker and a second by Councilmember Nichols. Discussion to the motion? Seeing none, let's vote.
Councilmember Haga?
Yes.
Councilmember Stoker?
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Southworth?
Aye.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Mayor Rolfe?
Yes.
Councilmember Hanson?
Yes.
Vote passes 7 in favor.
Thank you. Item 8A, discussion and possible action regarding a proposed open house to discuss storm drain water for residents located near 70th South, 3200 West. Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. So as you'll recall, about a month ago, there was some rather substantial flooding off of in the neighborhood of 70 South, 3200 West. At the council meeting after, we heard from a number of the residents who expressed quite a few concerns about the state of the stormwater system. There were a lot of questions about what have we done, where are we going. We've even heard tonight concerns about why we haven't done anything for 30 years. The proposal at that council meeting where we first brought it up was the facilitation of an open house to allow for a little bit better communication between staff and the members. Tom, do you have the presentation that kind of goes over in detail some of what they're living with right now?
It's a PowerPoint. Right?
B.
One to the left here on the Adobe Acrobat.
Right there. And I think it's the bottom.
The
It's
proposed
other-
open house.
That one. Yeah.
Okay. So if you'd advance to the next slide, and I guess we need the projector on. So
It doesn't work. I will apologize. It turned off as we were getting ready. So brand new projector. So you have your screens here and the audience has the TV. I'll be calling them tomorrow. Sorry.
We apologize. Hopefully you can see those screens from where you're sitting.
Yeah, sure. You can turn it off.
So what I'm hoping to accomplish with the proposed open house, we had all sort of taken an informal straw poll, and it seemed like everybody was in favor of it. There was a little bit of question about the timing. So I wanted to bring that up in front of the full council at the request of our interim city manager so that staff could have very clear direction on this. If you go to the next slide. This is what the neighborhood looks right now. This was as of about 2 weeks ago. So you'll notice that there's a pile of sandbags in front of this house for the next time we get a large storm. Next slide. We have a number of homes that have their garage basically quarantined. They have sandbags set up in front because the flooding's rather frequent. And a quick pause for a second. I would like to express appreciation to the folks from staff who made arrangements to deliver those sandbags so that there was some line of defense between the residents and the water that's been invading their homes. If you go to the next slide, this one's a little bit more difficult to see, but instead of putting the sandbags outside in front of the garage, blocking the garage off, they have a wall of sandbags inside the garage. They're just anticipating that the garage will again fill with water, and they're just trying that as their absolute last line of defense. Next slide. Again, you've got the extra pallet out. Whoop, go back one. You've got the extra pallet of sandbags out front, sandbags covering the garage, covered with tarps. I hope it's becoming clear that this is very much an issue that folks in this neighborhood have to live with every single day. It's not so much an inconvenience, but it really is a detriment to lifestyle and their ability to access their property. Next one. This is the home that we heard the most about that has the most steeply declined driveway, and it almost looks like a war zone the way they've got everything barricaded so that the water doesn't come rushing into their home. The car that you see in the driveway, this was the one that was in the garage when the flooding happened at that last storm and was effectively totaled because of the water and the damage that it caused to the vehicle. So that's the current state of the neighborhood, and that's why I'm so adamant that we try and improve the communication with the residents. If you could go to the next slide. There's a couple things that to be a little bit more specific, what I'm hoping to accomplish with the open house. I'd like to provide residents with an overview of the entire stormwater system. We know that this is not a West Jordan specific system. It was actually implemented far before West Jordan in its current state existed. It was a county project and it goes through various municipalities. Not all of it is within West Jordan. There's places where it goes outside and other cities feed into ours. I'd like to share with residents what we've done to improve stormwater over the last 30 years. You've heard that that's a cause of frustration with them. They know this has been going on for a while, so I'd like to tell them about the new equipment. Today we talked about the new employees that Public Works intends to hire that were approved at the last budget back in May before the flooding even happened. I'd like to talk to them about the new equipment like the new camera truck to help make sure that we're actually utilizing our effort where it's most valuable, cleaning lines that need it and finding obstructions that we wouldn't otherwise find. I'd like to share with them some of the upcoming issues. We've talked about the Stormwater Master Plan that's being reviewed. Funding options. We have a public hearing coming up to discuss the potential movement of funds from one fund where we have a surplus to stormwater where we see a definite need. And then with the neighborhood involvement with the folks there, I'd like to see what we can do to get them involved and help them have a greater stake. I'd like to do kind of like a show and tell, show them some of the equipment, help them, or invite them to help fill sandbags so that we can be ready next time it happens. It may not necessarily be in their neighborhood, but like we saw this last week, there was another flooding issue that was indeed in their neighborhood just up the street. Folks who never thought they'd have an issue with flooding did have an issue, not from drainage, but from a broken water main. So I'd like to see if we can get some of the neighborhood enlisted to help prepare for upcoming issues that we would reasonably anticipate. The next slide, if you would. There's a couple things that, if everybody is still on board with the idea of an open house, some things that I'd like to consider. First of all is date. Honestly, I'd hope we could have a conversation and do that open house prior to fall. Right now it's getting a little bit dark, a little bit early, so having an open house on a weeknight is a little bit tricky. And if we were to do something on a Saturday, it's a bit of an inconvenience for staff to be available for that. At the same time, we recognize that flooding of the residents isn't exactly an inconvenience, but we want to make sure that we are careful of staff's time. Everyone recognizes that our frontline staff are the first ones to respond so quick and so professional, so good at what they do. We want to try and accommodate them. That's why the day of the week question, if we were to do Saturday versus a weekday, and then again, time of day. Sorry, the first item, date. I've been hoping we could do it earlier, but I know we've got the public hearing that's already scheduled in October. It's probably too late to do it before we have that, but if we can at least give the residents a time frame that, yeah, we're going to have an open house in late fall. Maybe we do something during the winter when it's relatively slow, or we do something early spring before the water really starts going on. With that, I'd ask if there's any questions or if there's any thoughts or suggestions, what feelings are about the open house and what we can do to improve communication with the residents. So, any thoughts or comments?
Councilmember Southworth?
Not so much, well, I guess it is a comment and a thought there, just to congratulate Councilmember McConaughey for being so persistent and putting together a great presentation. And I love the idea, I'd be supportive of moving forward with, I think this is good. Having more information only facilitates better outcomes. And I don't see any harm in doing it, so good job.
Councilmember Haga.
And first of all, I think the neighbors know that I support them. I don't want Councilman McConaughey to think that this is not a good idea. It is. But, you know, I think we need to wait till we get facts. You know, we need to know really what's wrong, what's going on with the pipes. We know Constitution Park, we're going to be talking about that tonight. But, you know, I'm just opposed to this, not because it's not a great idea, because anytime you can have dialogue with our residents is a good thing. But, you know, sometimes when you don't have the facts, things are misinterpreted. And yeah, it's good to let people know that we have state-of-the-art trucks that can view your pipes and things like that. But I would frankly like to see this still happen, but I would like to wait until the commission report as far as the status or the, you know, the results of really where our storm drains are come back. And so just because I would rather look somebody in the eye and say, this is how it is, this is what we can do about it. If you're, you know, staff time, I'd rather see the staff work on prioritizing some of the things we already have that are focused in this neighborhood, and weekly come back. I know we're going to see an update of some of the capital projects we have focused on right now. But again, I hope, I've talked to a few of the residents. I'm going to be kind of opposed to this because I want to wait until we have data and facts where we can look you in the eye and say, this is what your council wants to do. And but I don't want to, I think it's a great idea, Councilman McConaughey. It's just, I think it's premature right now. Thanks.
Councilmember Hanson.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't feel it's premature. I feel these people have suffered long enough. They have put up with the water far longer than they should have had to. It's destroyed a lot of their property. I think that if we have our educated staff there, they can explain to them our systems, what the problems we're facing, what we're going to do about it. And I think that they need to know that. They don't need to wait until we can say, okay, this is how we're handling this. I think that they need to know exactly what's going on, when it's going on. And I think we have educated staff which could address this to our residents before they continue to get flooded. I think it should come sooner than later. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else? I just had a comment. It's my belief that until we have the actual computer data from rainfall, that this would be a bit premature. I do applaud Councilmember McConaughey for bringing this. I know it's a big issue with everyone. And I would support this happening in the spring, you know, after we have the data and our staff actually has, there's some connecting storm drain water that's even outside of our jurisdiction that comes into play here. We don't have all the information on that. Our staff doesn't have that at this time. I would like to come look at the entire data and then look and see what could possibly be a solution. So, Councilmember McConaughey and then Councilmember Southworth.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. The couple comments that I would make are that having been there and experienced flooding myself, it's a little bit more reassuring when, even though those who are trying to protect you don't have all the answers, if you at least know what questions they're asking and you know that something is being worked on, or at least kind of have an idea as to how the investigation is going, it brings a lot of peace of mind. Even if you don't know the root cause and you can't have a definitive answer, having been there, having had a couple feet of water in my garage, it was good being able to connect with the stormwater department and know what kind of questions were being asked. That said,
could I just, you reassured all the residents that you've talked to that this is being master planned right now, right?
The ones where that's been part of the conversation, yes. I've let them know that we have our stormwater plan that's gone out. A couple weeks ago, that went out for, I believe the RFP for that was approved. I think we're anticipating information, December?
Yes.
Back on that one. So yes, the ones who have asked those specific questions, yes. I've let them know, but there are a lot of folks that I haven't been able to connect with one-on-one. And frankly, our Public Works Department has a lot more credibility than I do. So when they're able to make that connection, as opposed to me, that carries a lot more weight. Having said that, we're almost out of the rainy season now, and I think it would probably be more beneficial. I wish we could have already done it by this point, but having waited this far, I don't think it would be a huge detriment to wait until perhaps March, and perhaps direct staff to pick a Saturday in March that we could meet with the residents out in that neighborhood, coordinate a location, make sure that we can arrange for some staff to be there, and use a Saturday in March to share the information. That would be my proposal, unless Councilmember Southworth has something different to share.
Councilmember Southworth?
I'd support you if you said do it next week. And this is why. I said earlier that more information leads to better decisions. And I'll give an example that I've experienced just the other day. Talking to the individuals that are involved with the Gardner Mill and talking to the residents. And one of them brought up an idea and said, hey, what if we this? And laid that out. It was like, wow, that's a great idea. How come we never thought about that before? How come it never, nobody really ever brought this up, and that would just probably solve all of our issues. And the point I'm making is if you involve the folks, if you give people, the residents in the neighborhoods, and you tell them, here's how the system works, here's what we've done, here's the resources we have at hand. And even before we have the study done, I don't care if the study's not done or not, let them know, okay, and then they can start thinking about this, because they've got to be part of the solution. Information doesn't just flow one way. It goes both ways. And so engaging the professional staff, engaging the residents, the people around everybody, and saying, okay, think about this. That doesn't hurt, in my mind. That does not hurt at all. And you start that process, and this has to be a multi-step process, and we start by saying, here's this information first, and then down the road, we'll have this study, and we'll say, here's what the study says, and then we can have a better conversation, I believe, when there's more information laid out and you have time to think about it. And that's why I would say, well, I'll support you start next week.
Councilmember Stoker.
Thank you. When this was first presented, I had a completely different idea of what this was going to be about. The way that I pictured the open house was an opportunity for us to sit down and listen to the residents, for them to be able to provide us feedback. I mean, they're seeing the problem firsthand. They know what's happening, and it's an opportunity for them to explain to us what the problem is, where the water is coming from, how the problem is affecting them. And I think that is a vital part of the efforts that the city is doing moving forward with regards to the modeling and creating a solution and a problem. We need to listen to them. I mean, I don't think it serves anybody good to create an open house in the spring and recite numbers from a stormwater model. I don't think that's what anybody really wants. I think I think there needs to be an honest dialogue where they're explaining to the city what the problem is. And maybe there's some honest dialogue where the city can explain at least what we know about the problem, what we're trying to do to solve the problem. But I think when I first saw this, my impression is this is an opportunity for us to hear from the residents, for them to explain how this is affecting them so that we could come up with a better solution. So I support this measure wholeheartedly.
Councilmember Hagan.
The only thing, just real short to add, and you know, some of the discussion we had about this was in closed door, but I would propose, this would be, I'm not going to make a motion or anything, but I'm thinking instead of, I mean, this neighborhood is very well organized, and I don't know if you know that, but they have 3 leaders of their community that are communicating with all the neighborhood. And what I would propose with them is, why don't we start talking about, we know we have a lot of the low-graded driveways in that neighborhood that were zoned by the county back before the city took over this property. And, you know, it was discussed to me or explained, I don't know the details about how we have a grant program for sewer backup for people that might have problem, and then they can apply for a grant to get the sewer. What I would propose that we get the leaders of the neighborhood, and maybe as a 3-person council committee, talk to them about how many low-grade homes like that have the low-grade driveway are there. How many, if we know that amount from them, because this is their neighborhood, do we want to talk about a grant program like the sewer program? And so that's if we have solutions and we can talk about numbers and facts, I think the conversation is good. That would be my recommendation. I've talked and emailed to probably 50 of the residents, and I know they're organized very well, and they have a way of communicating. So I don't know if Mayor, if a suggestion we suspend the rules and allow maybe one of the neighborhood to speak on this. Is there any?
Well, I think that we've heard several times from the neighborhood. That would be my opinion, that we've heard from those that are flooded. We know full well there's no one on this council that doesn't understand. There's no one on the staff that doesn't understand the impact that the flooding has had on. The problem that I have with holding an open house is they're not going to be any happier telling us the same thing that we've already heard if we don't have a solution. And I'm fine with doing it if that's what the council votes, but what are you going to tell them? Make sure they have their sandbags ready for the next storm event? Because you don't know, they can tell us where the water's coming from in their belief, but until the professionals have actually done the calculations, and Councilmember Stoker is a storm drain engineer, and he knows how the calculations can be done, until we have a solution, I don't think they're going to be happy about having a open house with us at the end of them telling them, have your sandbags ready for the next storm event. I'm sorry, I wish we could advance it faster. I wish it could be done sooner than December. We're looking at an item on our agenda tonight to talk about moving funding so that we can address this issue in the spring. I think the staff is moving as rapidly as possible on this issue. And I understand it's a 30-year issue. I and Councilmember McConaughey were flooded in one of the storm events they're talking about. Last night at 8:30, my house finally got finished, my basement, from the flood event that I had. I've never been flooded in 38 years, yet that event got me. I feel pain for those who have been flooded. I understand what it's like to have your basement full of water and destroy sheetrock and window seals and everything. Councilmember, it's not that I'm unfeeling, but I don't think they're gonna get any warm fuzzies from our staff and us telling them that we don't have an answer. But I'll do whatever you want. I'll be glad to come to an open house to discuss it. I know that our city manager would like to make a statement on this, and then any others will move forward on this. Thanks, Bryce.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with everything that's been said, and what I proposed to Councilmember McConaughey when we first initiated this conversation is, at this point in time, immediately, I am more than willing to have a meeting. What I asked for is, could we just start with either myself, and now I'm even going to offer Wendell or someone else who could come to control the conversation and listen, gather information. Sure, we believe we know most of it, but we're willing to sit down and listen and hear what folks have to say so that we can go back and prepare accordingly. What I'm fearful of is that we have very caring staff that would be driving trucks and things of that nature that don't understand all the complexities. And if we get 5 or 6 or 7 staff members and we get off on sidebar conversations, do we have the potential of, in our effort to communicate a desire to improve things, say things that may not be factual at this point in time? And so I would propose that we start off with 1 or 2 staff members having a meeting at any time that Councilmember McConaughey thinks is most beneficial, gather information, and then proceed to the next one where we can show things and give demonstrations and lay things out at maybe March or whatever. And that's my proposal, and I think it gives us the best opportunity to prevent misinformation and to hear people immediately. What are your feelings?
Am I supposed to say something?
Councilmember Southwood.
I think, Mayor, I hear what you're saying, and actually it's a neat, your forte, and what you're very good at is you're a doer. You do things, and you get them done. And that's very good, but what we want to do is, I guess, kind of pre-wire the doing, if you would say. And what I was trying to communicate was, I think what Councilmember McConaughey laid out was a pretty good plan of discussing the situation. Here's where we're at. Giving a little bit of feedback and then saying, okay, now let's think about that until we get what you're talking about. Once we get this study back, and then we can really look at, okay, is this going to work, or, and implementing the solutions. But I don't think it hurts that we take a weeknight. I think you can do a weeknight here at City Hall downstairs or whatever, and you have some presentations and you show the system and what have you. I don't know that you can get out and touch and feel the trucks and everything. I think that's kind of what you're thinking about. Maybe you can't go that far. I think you can do it and at least start that conversation. You're not going to come to a solution at this meeting. If anybody thinks that you do, well, you probably need to reevaluate why you're going there, because it's not going to happen. You're right, Mayor, we're not. We're still going to leave that meeting and have to say, you know what, you're going to have the sandbags ready. But let's go into that knowing that, okay? The outcome is not a solution tonight. The outcome is to learn about the systems, what we've done in the past, what resources we have available to us, and so that you can understand where we're at, we can understand where you're at, and then we can work towards a solution in the future. But just lay that out flat, pretty clear at front. You're going to be putting sandbags when we leave tonight. I don't think that's a bad thing. Starts a conversation. So that's all I have.
Councilmember McConaughey, do you want to wrap this up?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Mayor. And again, thank you to the council who have expressed support for this idea. Very much appreciate the enthusiasm and backing to get engaged with the neighborhood. I've spent a fair amount of time with the neighbors, and like I said earlier, I really wanted to do something sooner rather than later. But given how much time has passed so far, I think we'll get the most bang for our buck if we try and plan something for the spring and have it very well coordinated, have plenty of information available, but at the same time do as Bryce suggested and make him and maybe 1 or 2 other staff available, specifically to those whose homes have been having issues. There are a handful who have been here every single council meeting since this came up, and I would love to be involved with them. As Councilmember Hagan suggested, there are a few that are taking the lead on this issue, so I'd like to get involved with them. With Bryce, I don't think that requires council action or council support, but for something a little bit larger to engage the full neighborhood, to take a little bit more of an effect on staff time, I would like to be as organized as possible and have as much information for that one. So having said that, I think I would I don't know that a motion is required, but I would move that we direct staff to come back with a proposed date in March to host an open house for the residents of this neighborhood. And meeting those points that were discussed in the presentation.
Does anyone have any opposition to allowing staff to do that?
I would just speak up to clarify, maybe if staff's going to do it on their own, but work with you, Councilmember McConaughey, to come up with that date and that time. Since you got a pretty good feel in the neighborhood, this is where there you represent, you live there, you've been flooded, so as the mayor, I think that makes sense.
I'll volunteer to be there whenever it's set up. Is that okay? Anyone opposed to that? Thank you. Item B, discussion and possible action regarding Resolution 14-185 regarding implementation of step and grade wage structure as recommended by the Wage Evaluation Committee. Bryce.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. We appreciate the opportunity to revisit this evening. I want to thank you for your confidence in giving us the responsibility as staff to go back and meet with our staff members to work together and to bring this presentation to you at this time. I also want to thank our staff that has communicated with us and shared information, and again, thank our Employee Association and our firefighters representative who have spoken tonight to express their support for this. I recognize, and I believe we all recognize, the heavy burden that you as council members share in this consideration. As we've spoken, we hear and we feel the responsibility that you are under to put the community's money to the best purpose and make sure that it's being spent wisely. We know that you and recognize the need to protect against spending more than we can afford. That's a very serious responsibility that you have, and we recognize that. We recognize that we don't want to have a plan that's more expensive or too expensive for our budget, and that's what was happening prior to the recession, and we recognize that, and we've heard you communicate that, and so we're listening to that. We recognize that you want to have the best workforce possible to serve in this city and to be a leader in this valley for the best workforce. And so I guess sharing that from what we've heard from you, is there anything else that we may have missed? And I want this to be kind of an open dialogue, but hopefully we can move it along rather quickly. Did we hit the major points that you've expressed for concerns? Okay. If so, we also have the staff, and as we've talked with the staff, we recognize that there are certain elements that come about in the public sector as we serve as public servants, and those types of things is the wage that they're earning comparable to what their peers in the same profession and the same amount of service, years of service, making. And believe me, because it's all over the internet, they do compare. We do compare. We look and say, oh, how am I doing against so-and-so? The staff also has the consideration, are they moving forward in their career? A STEP program says you start at the beginning of your career with limited skills and knowledge, and over a certain number of years you move and progress through steps showing that you're gaining proficiency and getting better. And we recognize that there's a learning curve that's very steep at the beginning, and we actually considered proposing a step increase with greater upward mobility in the first few years, but it just became so cumbersome that we backed away from that and decided to propose one that's even. Staff members also asked the question, if I progress through my profession, how many years will it take for me to top out? I remember being a brand new building inspector and going, wow, if I'm here for 14 years, I can make that much money. It's something that we in the public sector consider and look at. So with that being said, we recognize that there's a balance here that we're trying to find, the most delicate balance. And I want to stress that there is nothing about this that's an exact science. This is more based on emotion and a feeling than it is exact science. If that weren't the case, we would all have one set wage process and we would all follow it, but it's all over the map. I just want to quickly make sure that we're talking about a couple of definitions clearly. COLA is following the CPI, Consumer Price Index, and it's making sure that as inflation goes up or goes down, that the value of the dollar that the employees have continues to be consistent. And so that's why there's been the discussion about should we consider COLA every year so that we're not losing the value of the dollar. And for the last couple of years, we have indicated that within the increase that we're recognizing there's a CPI, but it's blended in with another component, and so it's hard for people to see that. The other definition is a step, and I just reiterated that a moment ago. Starting at the beginning of your career and as you progress through, you're proficient after X number of years. The STEP programs range anywhere from 10 years up to 20 years, depending on the profession, and it's just a matter of choice, and again, there's nothing factual or perfect about that. So with that being said, I also have heard, and we've heard you express concern, if we go to a step, does that mean that all employees will automatically get an increase every year regardless of their performance? And the answer to that is no. We don't believe that any employee should ever be hearing about their failure to perform at the time that they're getting their evaluation. We strongly believe that that needs to be communicated to that employee as soon as we start to see a deficiency in their performance. And as a matter of fact, as I've talked with our directors, we feel that we are addressing those issues. However, if there's a perception on your part that we're not doing that, then we need to sit down and have some dialogue with you so that we can better come to a realization of what that is and set up measures so that before we get to an evaluation, we're letting the employees know that they're not getting over the bar. And we don't believe that initiating a step increase at this time would prevent us from having that discussion and setting the bar higher if that's what we need to do. But we recognize that right now the way it's set up is every employee is evaluated, and if they meet a minimum of a 2, then they're sufficient to receive that step increase. And it's a true fact that in the last few years that we've been doing this, there are employees that have not met that minimum criteria and have been put on a 90-day corrective action plan. And if they don't meet the mark, then we excuse them from employment. But they realize they're at a very short string, and so they get to work and they perform. The other thing that we've also heard is how do we compensate our best employees, those people who are always stretching and trying to do more. And the fact is that we don't have a good recognition system that says if you perform at these levels, here's what you get. One thing that I've learned as I've studied recognition systems is that it's not one size fits all. Employees have different values. It may be half a day off or a day off for one person. It may be a gift certificate to a favorite restaurant or to the hardware store or something. And so really recognition systems need to be built around what the values of the employee. And it's kind of like, and I don't mean to be derogatory here, but I've learned it with my children as I've studied behavior. It's kind of like training a dog. When they do something right, you give them immediate recognition for doing that. Or raising children, we give them immediate recognition for doing that. And then that tells them, wow, I did the right thing. And so we need to have a recognition system that gives immediate rewards for doing the right things. We shouldn't wait for 9 months before we do that. And so we recognize and hope that you'll engage with us in having more discussion about those elements. So again, with recapping these things, and I appreciate what the Chief's done in putting together the presentation. We just added on to the end of the last staff report the things that we've discussed. I would like to now engage with the conversation. Are we in agreement that while it may not make sense in the private sector, that public sector has a different mentality, different responsibility of working in teamwork and not in competition against, that this idea of a step system or a secure benefit progression is something that can work? As an example, I sent to you the Sandy City report. The biggest cities on this that we compete against for jobs all have steps. That's what they've chosen to do. And as we've gone out and done research, Jeremy and John, they are finding that more cities are returning to that. In my 20 plus years of working in government, there has been a 10-year plus experiment of trying to be like private industry. And all I can say is my experience in 3 different cities is it doesn't work. We demoralize our employees as we try to make them perform against each other. It actually is counterintuitive to a teamwork approach. The next question is, can we agree to have a plan that will help us retain good employees? I don't question that that's all of your desire and intent. And again, it's not a perfect system, but as we've worked together, we believe that it's the best that we can come up with at this point in time. I'm also interested, is the council comfortable with a 2-year progression system for a brand new supervisor? We talked about this as a committee. The first one suggestion was, as soon as a supervisor becomes a supervisor, they should be making more than any of the top paid employees. And we discussed that at great length, and then we discussed a 2-year progression. You know what? There's a learning curve. So what's wrong if they make less than the highest paid employee for a year, recognizing at the beginning of the second year, if their performance is adequate, they would go above the highest paid employee. They would go to the next step above the highest paid employee. And if they're not, they would be put on a 90-day remediation plan to make sure that they're coming up to par. So do you have any feelings about anything that I've mentioned so far, or any contradiction to those?
Councilmember McConaughey. Quick question. I don't have the document here. Which cities did you say are on a STEP plan currently?
Yes. Sandy recently did a survey of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 entities, and the ones that indicated that they had a STEP were Provo. Let me get on the right line here. Should have highlighted Provo, Salt Lake City, Unified Police, and West Valley. And I think Unified Police, it wasn't Unified Fire, because this is only for their police department only. So again, our biggest competitors for these jobs, and the ones that probably have the most likelihood of paying on comparable wages. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it did. I had done some calling around. So when you asked for contradictions, I did call in some of these cities. I know Sandy said they currently don't. They went away from that. They don't intend to go back. South Jordan says they don't intend to go back to something like that either. South Jordan was kind of interesting. They said that there have been some conversations about possibly looking to do something to break out public safety from everything else and possibly do something with public safety. But the cities that I spoke with, I didn't contact Provo, Salt Lake, or West Valley. I didn't get a hold of West Valley. I was waiting for a call back from them. But the others said that they weren't going back that direction. So I'm not trying to the opinion that most are going back that way. The one thing that did stick out to me, though, was UPD. When I had a conversation with them, they said, yes, they do indeed have that step with that set amount for their sworn personnel. But they don't have that fixed amount for their administrative staff. So it's kind of split there. Often it goes along, but it seemed to me like that was more something for public safety and not necessarily municipalities in general. It was more the public safety that had that fix. So that's the only thing I would add to what you've said.
And I wouldn't debate that for a second. Again, there's many other models that are out there. We believe that we've heard clearly that you as a council are mostly in support of COLAs, that we consider each year looking at what the CPI is and saying, can we or should we be implementing a COLA? I would also like to point out that we as staff believe this is the first place that you could use this as a throttle to back off if needed and say, you know what, the economy's not working and going as fast as we expected, so we can still implement the step, realizing that can be a mix of COLA and other, and then just say we won't do the COLA this year. So I share that we've seen that happen, and we recognize that that can be an element that you can adjust on. Councilmember Haga?
I brought this up last time, I had an opportunity to sit down with Ryan, and he explained it, most of this to me, a little more detail, which I appreciate. Thank you, Ryan. We as a council, we approved $550,000 in our budget for this next fiscal year for this compensation to our employees. That's right, isn't it?
That's my understanding.
So, and so I'm looking at these, and I come from the business world where this is new to me. This is the way you think, but my income was always based on the economy grows, I'm going to make more money. And with our employees, I just just astounded. I know we didn't talk about the COLA last time, but that kind of gives you something for the future to at least to see if the economy's growing, so will their wage. Am I right?
That's correct.
You know, my main question to you, the staff, because the staff recommendation is the 13 step at 3%. And I'm wondering why since we budgeted $550,000, why we're not proposing the 12 step, since we as a council approved, $550,000. And that's this 13 step, and perhaps we go to the 2-year plan still is within our budget.
That's true, Councilmember Haga, and I don't think anybody would argue that more isn't better for the employees. What I appreciated about the committee that met together and the staff as we've spoken with them is what we don't want to do is return back to the days when it was too rich of a plan, that it couldn't be, that we couldn't keep up with it based on the economy and everything. And so if you take the COLA, which last year was 1.8%, and then add that to a 3%, that's much easier to swallow than what used to be a 6% and what I've been told was an automatic 2% COLA each year. We talked from the very beginning that we don't want this to be an unsustainable plan. We don't want the council to go, oh my gosh, what in the world did we do? So that's why I appreciate that the staff listened and we came up with a plan that we think and we believe is sustainable. Mayor?
I just, I don't want to cut off anything that you're speaking about, Bryce, but the COLA, you've explained it very well. That's kind of a separate discussion from this step and grade, and you know that I support the COLA wholly. I believe that employees that don't keep up with the cost of living are actually losing money on their paycheck. So I think that's a discussion probably for a different day. I'd really like to track on the step and grade if we could stay with that, if you don't mind. I mean, I support it, and I believe that we absolutely have to do it. Otherwise, well, that's part of the reason we're in the situation we are. But
no problem.
If we could just stay on that point, I'd appreciate it.
So are there any other questions that we can answer? One of the things that we did also do, we want you to realize, while the resolution does have the 3% in there, and that's what we heard discussed at the last council meeting, we provided you with a 12, a 13, and a 14 step so that you, hopefully tonight, would feel comfortable in saying, yes, we like this step plan. Realize that either direction, moving to a 11 or up to a 15, is just approximately a 0.25% change. And so we want to leave you in the driver's seat of where you think is a sustainable number. We've given you our recommendation, but we don't want you to feel painted into a corner. And we also want to stress that we recognize that if the economy changes, that the council will make the correct decision of what's best for the city. And you can stop and pause the step system, and then when things come back, put it back into place. And that's kind of what the employees have been hoping would happen, but they realized the 6% was too rich.
Councilmember Southworth had a question.
Yeah, thank you. Bryce, could you help me understand, you've got the 12, 13, and 14 steps, and I look at them, and as I look at the progression, one thing that sticks out to me is that the cost of the 14 step, which wasn't suggested, but anyway, that's more than the 13 step.
John would be happy to answer that question for you. How about that?
Let's get it back, clean up here. So John, so help me make that connection there. It looks like the wage costs go up, the benefit costs go up, but it was extended and it's less
Absolutely.
percentage.
The cost that you're looking at on that sheet is for this first year to implement it. Right now we have ranges with minimums and maximums, and then employees are anywhere within that range. So the cost that you're seeing there, the fiscal implementation cost, is simply the cost to get everyone to that next closest range. So although you might first let next closest step, pardon me.
Okay.
So while it intuitively might not make sense when you first look at it, it's the cost just to get them to that next step so that every employee would be on a step moving forward. The cost in future years would be the amount of the step. So if you chose the 12-step program, it would be 13.25% would be the amount that the employees that meet the minimum requirements would be moving up. So in future years, the 3.25% plan, the 12-step plan, would cost more to maintain than the 14-step plan that has the 2.75% steps.
So tell me if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying because of the spread of the steps, the distance you have to take an employee to fit them in, because we've got to start somewhere.
Yes, that's
we've got to start somewhere.
That is just the amount to get everyone onto that next closest step so that we can then move forward.
So I guess if I'm as an employee, if it was a 13 as opposed to a 14, I might, in the short run, be doing a little bit better in a 14 step because I'm going to start because of the spread, and it sounds like I'm going to get maybe a step above where I might be at a 13, but it's a 2.75% as opposed to 3% in the following years.
Correct. Yes,
okay.
That's a valid assessment.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Nichols.
Thank you, Mayor. As I get to this point, I realize I have more comments than questions, so I just have comments.
Okay, please.
Or hang tight, I guess. No one's heard from me yet because I wasn't here in this last conversation, so I apologize for that. And apologize to the public as well. Work calls you out. In the last little 2 weeks, I've been in Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Colorado. Next week's North Carolina. It keeps me busy. And you try to fit this all in, so I'm really sorry. And I need to get this out. So let's talk about these 3 issues. I don't have any questions, Bryce, so if you want to hang on, that's fine. Here we go. I'm really just going to express my opinion so that you can all hear this and we can move forward. We have 3 issues up at STEP, COLA, compression. That's what I'm looking at. And when I look at the STEP, I see pros and cons. And as I look at COLA, I see some pros and cons. And compression is the same thing. I've expressed my opinion on each one. Let me quickly review those. The STEP plan, it always has been a question for me, is sustainability. And at the same time, the other question that I have is with respect to employee performance. And I want everyone to understand as well, outside of city council business, I'm a federal employee, and it's a disaster in my agency, the way it works. Everybody gets a raise regardless of performance. The poorest performers get just as much as me, and it's ridiculous. And that is why I want you to understand my viewpoint, where performance becomes an issue. With respect to the step increase, I think this is something that makes sense for us. The reason being, I had a very good conversation with Chief Diamond today, and I appreciate your time. It was a very lengthy conversation, very frank conversation. I asked hard questions, and he gave me very direct answers. I appreciated that. And the step increase really makes sense to me. The 12, not so much. The 13 is better. I really like the 14, but the 13 seems like a good compromise. The reason I like that is it does allow the employees to have the ability to look forward in the future, to have a career path, to understand that there is a real possibility for an increase. And but it's contingent upon what Bryce has hit on, them performing at a certain level. I'm strongly against an automatic increase. But this step increase is a plan in which managers are held responsible to meet with their subordinates and review their performance at least annually. And I agree with that. I think that's a good path. With respect to the COLA, my only objection would have been to it is that it's an automatic every year. The fact that the council has the control of it, I have no objection. It makes sense. The cost of living goes up. We should review it each year. And when the COLA, or when the price index goes down, and we've actually seen a national price index that goes negative. I mean, that's a year when you just kind of bridle it for a little while. And it makes sense to me. Moving on to the third point, the compression. This was probably my biggest sticking point of all, because in my role at my job, in my experience, I see employees where I'm the supervisor, and they make more money than me because they've been there a lot longer than me, and I have no issue with that. So as we address compression, I like the idea of the 2-year plan versus a 1-year plan as we kind of correct it, but I realize a piece of our compression is the fact that we didn't give increases for so many years, and it caused the problem, and we're responsible for that problem. And I step up to that, and therefore I would be in favor of moving towards correcting this compression issue over a 2-year period. Really, that's my stance. I want everyone to understand where I'm at, but there's one more piece that we didn't bring up, and I did talk to the chief about it today. it's a big issue, not for today's discussion, but we need to address it. I really think the career ladder idea is something we really need to review. Career ladder is very important, I think, for career progression. In a past life, I was an information technologist, and as such, part of that was I would go out on my own and I would obtain certifications. And as I did, my employer saw the value in me doing that, and as a result, they gave me an increase. That's private enterprise. That's not government. That's private enterprise. And why can't the government try to replicate that the best we can? It's not for tonight's discussion. I just throw that out. It's something we really should address. We can do that in each of our departments. I can see it being done easily in GIS and public works in different departments. I can see it in fire and police. I can really see it across the board, implemented in different departments. So let's talk about that. So where are we? I would be prepared for a motion, but I know others may want to talk. So I'll shut up for now.
Councilmember Hanson.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I'd like to apologize to staff. I voted in the negative last week, and I didn't explain why. And I believe I owe the staff that explanation as to why I voted the way I did. I've had several calls. I've talked with different members of staff. I like the STEP program, and I was in favor of it last week. The reason I voted against it is it did not include a COLA. You just look at the price of gas this year. I mean, it is going down now, but it got close to $4 an hour, or a gallon. That means you're taking home less money because it's costing you more to live. I had a long conversation with our interim manager, Bryce, and also I spent an hour with Chief Diamond, and we went over my feelings, and the new proposal that is before us tonight does include that COLA if we are able to sustain it. If we are not, if the index goes down and we can't sustain it, then there won't be a COLA that year, and I understand that. There may be a recession again. That's something we have no control over, and we may have to freeze wages again. But I believe what is being supported now with the STEP program, whether it be 13 or 14 steps, and then the COLA, this gives somebody that gets to the 14th step and there's nowhere else to go, and we can afford it, they are still going to get that COLA increase. And so their wages would still increase due to the cost of living. And so with that said, I again apologize for not explaining why I voted in the way I did. I now do really like this program, and I would vote in favor of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Stoker.
Thank you, Mayor. I too voted against it at the last meeting, and for two reasons. Similar to Councilmember Hanson, I believe that a COLA also needs to be included in the plan. Not only needs to be included, but I think it needs to be the first thing that employees get in the plan. Whether or not the funding is there to provide merit increases, I think that we should be making those adjustments for cost of living first, regardless. So I think, we've talked about doing the steps with maybe backfilling with the COLA. I think the COLA needs to be first, so that employees are never losing money by working here, and try to make that about as automatic as we possibly can. Now, I know that we can't predict the economy in future years, but the impact by having another fiscal year come and go and realize that you have to find cuts somewhere because your money just doesn't go as far as it did, it just doesn't work. Also, the second thing was I had some serious questions about the STEP program in principle. And, thanks to Chief Diamond and Chief McElreath, I came into the last meeting and talked with them both in the hall before the meeting, and they were great in answering my questions. And the problem was me. I wasn't asking the right questions, so that at the end of the meeting, I still didn't understand a number of things. And so I took it upon myself to kind of do a bunch of research. I too looked into a bunch of cities, not just in the Wasatch Front, but in the region, and found out that over half of them do use a STEP system, and that And I was previously thinking that, if we follow with this new economy that we're in, we should model the private sector. And in reality, it doesn't work that well. I've been in the private sector, and I've been in the public sector. The private sector is based upon competition, where you can have an employee bouncing from one job to another job every 3 to 6 months. And that doesn't work well in a public environment where you're seeing long-term projects that may go on for 6 months or 24 months before that project actually sees finish. So I see the value in the STEP system. And now that I've had a chance to kind of do some research and kind of look into some of those things. So I kind of want to echo what some of the other council members have said. I think the COLA tied to a CPIU should be the first thing that should happen. Then second, I would support the STEP program. And then I've kind of toyed around with which step to look at, and John was really great at answering a bunch of my questions this afternoon. Said that basically the difference between the 12-step and the 13-step, or the 13-step and the 14-step, is about $75,000 per year in that 0.25% difference. And so I've kind of really been weighing which step I think is best. However, if you're making an automatic COLA, the COLA this last year was 1.8%. Now, on average, over the last 5 years, it's about 1.2%. And if we look at that and we tie that to a step, I really don't want to create a plan that is something that people can't rely upon. I figure if you're going to do a plan, you better darn well follow it. And so the people, if they're making plans, if they're making career decisions, and then they've come to accept the STEP system, but the council doesn't follow through with it, I think you're doing more harm than good by having the program in place. And so with that, considering that the average cost of inflation has been 1.2%, I tend to lean towards the 14-step plan along with the 2.75%. It comes out to about 4%. Now this last year it would have been 4.5%, but I think that that's a great place to go. And then along with that, the other option we were talking about was the compression. I favor the 2-year plan. But with those other payment options, with the COLA and with the STEP, I think we can be in charge of our own finances going forward and properly reward the employees for what they're doing. I completely agree with Councilmember Nichols that if there isn't some tie to performance rather than just meeting some basic minimum standards, that you end up with a disaster in the organization. But that's a decision for another day. So just to kind of echo what I've said, and I've probably said it already too many times before, I think we need to start with the COLA tied to the CPIU, include a STEP program with 14 steps, and do the compression with the 2-year promotion plan.
Is that a motion?
I will make it so.
We have a motion.
Can you repeat that for clarification?
I will repeat the motion that we approve Resolution 14-185 regarding implementation of a step and grade wage structure with modifications, that a COLA be implemented as a first priority tied to the CPIU. Second priority is a STEP program based upon the 14-step program, and also to direct staff regarding to address supervisor subordinate compression issues with the 2-year plan as outlined in the staff report.
Did everyone hear and understand that?
I don't know what you mean by doing the COLA first. What do you mean? Because my understanding was the STEP and the COLA they work together.
Well, he's just adding the COLA that we talked about 2 weeks ago, that it follows the Consumer Price Index of Utah.
COLA is basically adjusting everything for inflation.
Right.
And then the other two things are what?
You said implement a COLA first, and then you talk about a step. What do you mean?
Just to have the COLA as a first priority, so that employees are, whether or not the step ever gets approved that particular given fiscal year, and employees are still not losing money with their pay.
But aren't the steps part of the COLA is what?
No, not necessarily.
Councilman Stoker, I'd like to second that. I was wondering if we can make sure it's, let's write it all out so we all agree that we're understanding what you said. 'Cause I still,
Okay, it's pretty simple. It's pretty simple.
Okay, well then
We're going to implement a COLA that will track with the CPIU based on if this passes. The step system will be a 14-step system, and the subordinate compression issue will follow the 2-year plan that was put forth by the committee. So that's what so we have a motion by Councilmember Stoker and a second by Councilmember Haga. And Councilmember McConaughey has been waiting to speak on this issue. So him first, then Southworth, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to speak against the motion. I really wish I could support it, but I'm trying to think of the clearest way to put this together. My biggest concern, like Councilmember Stoker stated, was setting expectations for staff as a city and then not meeting those. I think we're putting ourselves in a position for likely failure if we don't have that step amount somehow indexed to economic indicators. I don't see how we can promise somebody when they're starting their career, if you come here, you will get 2.75% increase every year, unless council decides not to fund it. That's really difficult because we have recently had to freeze that, and that action caused many of the problems that are causing many of the complaints and the inequities. So we're having to clean up after a compensation plan that was very closely modeled to this one. I don't feel comfortable supporting a plan that I don't believe is economically sustainable. If the economy does go south again, then we're going to be in the same position that we are now. If the economy, on the other hand, takes off, we need to be able to react and compensate the employees accordingly as well. We do have the COLA that adjusts for inflation, but I don't think that having that factor absent from the non-COLA portion is really acceptable. The other thing that I would say is I think the step system makes more sense for public safety than it does for the rest of City Hall. I know that's certainly not a popular thing to say, and it's not going to win me any friends, but we do compete very much with the private sector when it comes to services like accounting, legal, administrative services, engineering. There are private firms that we partner with all the time. Almost all of our agendas have some sort of consent item where we're approving a contract with one of those private firms that handles that same service. We very much do compete with them, but we're not going to be playing on the same grounds. This is why last time I mentioned I would be more in favor of separating public safety, because I do think public safety is where this would play more of a role, or even something for some of the more frontline early profession positions we have, like parks, where you have somebody who comes in first year, they learn how to maintain some of the parks, and over the course of a few years, they progress rapidly. I would be okay implementing something like this in that system. It's been mentioned that we're given the 3 different options to keep us in the driver's seat. Personally, I feel like I'm in the driver's seat of the little car that you ride at Disneyland, where you can only steer so much as long as you're going down that same track. And I don't think it's the right track. And I feel like we're going to be making promises to employees we inevitably will have to break. And for that, I can't support that. The one thing I will say is I do support expanding those funds that we've allocated. I just don't think this is the right plan. I'm a little frustrated because 2 years ago we set aside $200,000 to address these issues, and it didn't get done. So I'm happy that something's coming forward now. I'm not thrilled with this first plan, but I still think it can be refined. The other thing I would say to speak to Councilmember Nichols' comments about the career ladder being a separate issue, I actually think it's all part of the same compensation package and should be included together in consideration. I think we need to look at the CPI, I think we need to look at the merit, and I think we need to look at career ladder. I think career ladder was the bigger thing that we need to get for employees right away, because that rewards not necessarily performance per se, but it really does. It rewards them as they acquire additional skills, additional expertise. And that's where I think we should put in the fixed amount, saying as you move from here to here and follow that career ladder, we have a percentage increase. Absolutely. Having that percentage increase here for another year of tenure, yeah, that additional year adds, but I don't think it merits a promise from the city that we'll do all we can to give you that fixed percentage every year. And lastly, from a resident's perspective, I have a really, really hard time voting on behalf of the folks that I represent in District 1, saying, yes, we can vote to support a promise for a certain percentage increase every year when nobody else gets that. And that could potentially put us in a position where we're cutting services to those residents in order to fund salary increases. I really think there needs to be some sort of tie to the economy in general, so I will have to speak against the motion as presented.
Last comment on this issue. Councilmember Shopper.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. So I think it was mentioned on here, a couple folks actually mentioned it, that the idea of STEP is foreign if you don't live in that world. As we kind of have, as a council member, kind of have a step in, a foot in and out. And it is foreign to me. Does that make it wrong? No. Does it make it right? No. It just means it's just different. And I accept that, and I think that if that's what the committee came up with as the best option, then I'll support that. Do I think it's the only option? No, it's not. But if that's the one you say is the best option at this point in time, then I'm going to go with that. Now, I do that because of a couple of things. First of all, I think Bryce asked me, what are your concerns? And I said, my one concern is that you provide opportunities for merit-based incentives so that an employee that wants to go above and beyond can be recognized and do that. I like that. I think those individuals should be rewarded. And as we've discussed. So that's why I'm supportive. So I think it goes back to evaluation. For me, I become more concerned about that. I would actually personally what I would do if it was me, is I would probably say maybe even stretch it out, 14 straight, 15. And then I would throw in an option to where if an employee maybe met a 3.5 evaluation or something, or averaged some number for 2 years, you skip steps. Because you are showing your value to the organization through your merit. So you can just skip those steps. I like that kind of stuff. And that's what I feel. Who don't have that, that's okay. What we have is what we have, and I think it's a good start, and it's a good place to be. Now, one thing that I am nervous about, in the motion it says we tie the COLA to the CPI. I should say CPIU is what you said. That makes me a little bit nervous, I'll say to the council, because the CPIU may have some lags or not. The economy changes, it flux and it ebbs and flows. You have sub-indexes that maybe you would want to rely on or not. And so it's just not the perfect. It makes me nervous to say we're going to tie to this one thing. And I was okay with this because of when I look at a COLA, you can throttle it. You can take your foot off the gas or you can put it on there a little heavy, depending on how things are going, the situation you see. When you tie it, in my mind, it kind of takes that flexibility away. And so that makes me a little bit nervous. So I'm trying to decide, yay or nay on this. I like the proposal, but that one thing makes me pretty nervous. I don't want it, like Councilman McConaughey said, I don't want to have an unsustainable product when we're done with this tonight. I want something that's sustainable. Now, changing it, if I understand it, changing it in that respect, in my mind, makes it a little bit hard to predict the future. If we say we want to give somebody, I want to give somebody, they can look at this and say, yeah, you can't count on it. You can't look down the road and you cannot count on it. Don't do that. Don't do that disservice to yourself because you don't know what's going to happen. But at least it can be a roadmap. And you can say, that's probably likely. And that you can do. We've come through the recession. And boy, in my time on the council, and that's all it's been, right until now. So that's kind of what guides my thoughts. So I would, just like we talked about the sandbags, if we do this meeting, don't come in thinking you're going to get an answer that night. You're going to leave this meeting knowing you're going to put sandbags back out. I look at it the same way. You can't look at the step thing and say, that's guaranteed, I'm going to get it. That's in writing. No, it's not. Because of the economy changes. And I think we set ourselves up for some unreasonable expectations, and that could spell trouble down the road. So I would probably going to be a no vote on this unless the maker of the motion is willing to untie that from the CPU. And then I'd be willing to support at that point, but as it is now, for those reasons, that would be a no.
Mayor, call the question.
Okay, the question has been called. Let's vote.
Mayor, I need to interject. There's one thing that I would ask if we could make a friendly amendment to the motion, and that is to make it effective for the current pay period. And the only reason for that is we're inputting that data right now, and that's not been stated in the motion.
Would you make that?
I would be willing to amend the motion to make it current for the current.
And you'll second? Okay, so.
Also, Mayor, I would like to amend my motion, so rather than tying it definitively, the COLA to the CPIU that it's based or related to, so it does allow the council some flexibility if there is some outlier that's clear, that the council still has some flexibility, but I still want it related to the CPIU, and I want that to be the starting point.
Well, there's.
Point of order, Mayor. I recalled the question, I think.
Yeah, but it's his motion, and he has the opportunity to amend it if you'd like. You second what he said?
I will, Councilman. I still need this a little more defined. I'm sorry my old ears are not. I understand, Mayor, you briefed some of it, but you just.
Okay, so.
Because we have hundreds of people that I think this has to be clear. So.
Okay, so I'd like to amend my motion for two different things. The first thing is that we make it applicable to the current pay period. The second one is I think the verbiage I used is that the COLA is tied to the CPIU. I think that might be a little too rigid, doesn't allow the council flexibility if there is something wrong with the CPIU, but that we change the verbiage so that we say it's based upon or related to the CPIU, so it allows the council, if there is something extremely strange with the CPIU, it still allows the council some flexibility to make appropriate decisions.
I concur.
Okay, so you'll still second that? Okay, thank you for that, and I applaud those council members that have taken appears like a different look at this, and let's go.
Can I just ask for clarification? So the COLA is still your first priority because you base them in priorities?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Councilmember McConaughey?
No.
Councilmember Hanson?
Yes.
Councilmember Haga?
Yes.
Mayor Rawl?
Yes.
Councilmember Southworth?
Because of the change, yes.
Councilmember Stoker?
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Vote passes 6-1 in favor.
Council, thank you very much, and thank you to our staff and employees for everything they've done to contribute. I appreciate your support.
Do you need a break? Somebody asked for a break.
Mayor, I move that we take a 5-minute recess.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
5 minutes only, please.
Mayor, do you anticipate we'll be here beyond 9?
Huh?
Do you anticipate we'll be here beyond 9 p.m.? I will. No,
Councilmember McConaughey had a issue.
Thank you, Mayor. Based on the number of items remaining on the agenda and the expectation that the meeting will likely extend beyond 9 o'clock and my commitments to be elsewhere by 9:30, having to leave the meeting, therefore having to excuse myself at 9 o'clock from the meeting, I would move that we suspend the rules to allow for the meeting to extend beyond 9 p.m. and also allow the mayor to adjust the order of the items remaining on the agenda as appropriate.
We have a motion by Councilmember McConaughey.
Second.
We have a second by Councilmember Nichols. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
No, I didn't even know what you did.
Okay, would you repeat what you stated?
The motion that we just voted on was to suspend the rules to allow the mayor to rearrange the order of the items remaining on the agenda as appropriate and also extend the meeting beyond 9 o'clock if necessary.
That was the motion.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Now, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, I'm gonna take consent item D. This will be really quick. I would like to table this until such time as we have, this is Councilmember McConaughey's item that he stated 2 weeks ago. I believe that this will be incorporated in the design if funding becomes available for the storm drain on 70th South. I want it done for Mr. Carlson. I've met with him. I understand the issue there, but I believe that it can wait until we see what the design looks like. Because I believe that there will be an overflow in the canal. So if we fix it now with the $39,000 that's been estimated, that would have to be removed and redone as part of the 70th South storm drain. So please.
And Mayor, I'm going to have to rely on you and your professional expertise here. Do you believe that by making this change, we'll still be able to have the project completed before the next irrigation season?
I'm not sure about that, but I feel confident that just reversing, it has reverse slope on the pipe, and I believe that the head in the canal is the problem, not just the reverse sloping of the pipe that enters the canal system. And until such time as we have an overflow, we can't raise the level of the canal because we take the chance of flooding people upstream. So I think that we'll at least have a solution with the design. I would state that. I'm not sure that fixing the slope on the pipe for the $39,000 is going to solve all of the issues that Mr. Carlson has, because there's no head on the pipe, even though it's got reverse slope. So that's my opinion. So we can either table it or to a date uncertain, or I'll look.
I can make a motion if you want.
Please.
We move consent item D to a date uncertain. We table it to a date uncertain.
We have a motion? We have a motion by Councilmember Nichols and a second by Councilmember Hager. Any discussion? Please.
Mayor, I think I would ask that perhaps we change, or I think I would recommend an amendment to the motion to, instead of tabling it to a date uncertain, table it to perhaps the first council meeting in March, so that we're sure to review this one. And it's slated to come back if the other thought process doesn't play out.
Councilmember Nichols accepts the friendly amendment, and we have a second. Okay, let's vote.
Mayor Rolfe?
Yes.
Councilmember Haga?
Yes.
Councilmember Stoker?
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Hanson?
Yes.
Councilmember Southworth?
Aye.
The vote passes 7 in favor.
Okay, since Councilmember McConaughey needs to leave, and item F is an important one, I would like to move it to the next item, and then we'll go to D next. So, discussion and possible action regarding interlocal cooperation agreement between the city and Salt Lake County for the purpose of trading the city's property located at 7971 South, 1825 West, for Salt Lake County's property located at 1970 West, 7800 South. And this is my item, but Bryce, would you please bring us up to date on the newest, latest, greatest?
Thank you, Mayor. It's so hot off the press that most of us haven't even had a chance to read through it. But in concept, what we have agreed to with the county, and I want to thank Christina Oliver for her cooperation and taking the time to sit down. She's been phenomenal to work with and very understanding, is that because of the city's concern in the future that we not only have enough parking stalls within the boundary of our own property, but we envision a possibility of at least 24 more stalls based on historic use and parking in that lot, and the difference in value between the two properties, that being that the city's property directly behind the fire station has approximately $100,000 higher value than the old library. They have agreed in concept to 24 lots that will be the city's stalls on that property. We may choose to leave it in an easement, or we may choose to subdivide in the future. That will be determined as we go forward. We just want to have the opportunity to go back and review a few items to make sure we're totally clear on a few things. I quickly reviewed those with Christina before the meeting. She nodded that it didn't sound like anything that was a deal breaker. So if you in concept are fine with the things that we've discussed at this point in time, give us the nod to move forward, and we'll have an agreement for you at the next meeting.
Is anyone opposed to doing what Bryce just described and bringing it back even as a consent item at the next council meeting? You have your direction.
Thank you.
Okay, item D, discussion and possible action regarding solid waste fund cash balance and stormwater prioritization of projects. Ryan and Wendell, which one's taking this one? Ryan is taking it. Excuse me, 8D.
All right. As we know, we've sent out something to the citizens.
We're going to go to this one.
Okay. I was going to say, did you want? I can sit down if you want to go to another.
No, please. Please go now.
No, not a problem.
I skipped you, Jim. Sorry.
Well, we can do this pretty quick. As we're moving forward, we're going to have the public hearing next week in regards to the possible transfer of money from the solid waste fund to the stormwater fund. What we wanted to bring to you was an updated financial statement, an updated position where we are in cash as we moved along. So as we brought this forward, our cash as of June 30th, 2014 is $4,620,170.73 in the solid waste fund. What I've also done is gone through and done a calculation which shows what really we should try to keep on hand in order to do this with our concerns. As recommended by the Transjordan landfill, we should keep 110% of the tipping fees, which would be $554,477. And then of the remaining expenses, we usually want to keep a 90-day working capital or a 25% fund balance to handle the things that could come up if we have a contract go awry, that we can continue to pay for things and make sure we don't. One of our concerns is transferring too much money out of this fund, that we have to come back in 2 years and ask for a rate increase because we transferred too much money out of this fund, and we definitely don't want to have to do that. So our recommendation is that we keep, as a minimum, $1.3 million in the fund balance, which would leave available for transfer $3.3 million. Our recommendation from day one is to just transfer an even $3 million from the solid waste to the stormwater fund, but that's just the recommendation of staff as we move along. So this is what we wanted to bring forth to you as we do this, and then answer any questions you may have concerning our recommendation.
Questions from council? Councilmember Hagan.
Thanks, Ryan. Hey, I wanted to, I reviewed this with you today. I appreciate it. I do have one other question. So I'm really a proponent of this. So, but the cost of doing business, which you're saying 90 days working capital, that's what I would call it, almost $750,000. Part of that, just so you know, and I'm wondering if we can lower that, because some of that money, $261,000, goes into our general fund for the services that our employees give us for this particular fund. Plus, we also moved 115,000, almost 116,000 out of for salary and benefit. So I wouldn't delay the movement of the money, but I think the 750 is a little high. I would think it'd be more at $500,000 based on those two numbers. The transfer into the general fund for wages and for the service, because that's really our 90 days sustainability we have to do for our city government.
No, like I said, this is our recommendation. I mean, as always, everything is up to council how much they want to transfer. We're simply making a recommendation based on our experience and what we've seen, which is a 90-day working capital and then the 110% of tipping fees.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. Ryan, what's the annual value of the contract with ACE for the services they provide?
The annual contract is pretty much that collection contract that you see that's almost 3 below. It's over $2 million. It's I think the third from the bottom that says collection contract.
Okay, so about 2.15.
Yeah. So yeah, it says collection contract. It's the third from the bottom in the expenses, and last year we paid $2,068,000 to ACE Disposal.
So the question I would have then would be, what services do we need to pay for besides those to ACE for solid waste?
The other services we have, there are some other stuff. We have a city dumpster program, which it runs about $200,000. We have certain equipment that we have to deal with, the salaries of the people that are in there, your fleet charges for your vehicles, things like that, and then of course the internal fund transfers, so the general fund support of that.
So let me change the question. So of the list of items that are on here, the ones that are payable outside of the city would include like the solid waste equipment, glass recycling, collection contract, and dumpster landfill as well?
Yeah, pretty much everything that other than the salary, the interfund, and the fleet would be stuff that would be outside of the city, paid outside the city. I mean, yeah, the office supplies, which were minimal, and the other stuff were minimal, but those kind of that bottom group after, where it says debt service, garbage cans, that would all be outside kind of contracts outside the city.
Can you explain what direct service is?
Direct service that's Wendell's group, where he has supervisors that go over multiple funds, and they're actually directly working with the solid waste, but they're actually paid for through the general fund and not directly to the fund itself. I don't know if that made sense. Did I answer that question correctly?
Yeah, it did. What I'm getting at is the same thing Councilmember Hager was looking at, where it's, okay, how much cash actually flows outside of the city that we would have to come up with in the event that we needed to do so. So I'm just getting a little bit different number, which would be about $800,000. That would be, in my mind, the target that we want to keep on hand, because I basically subtracted the wages that we're going to be paying anyway out of the general fund.
Well, and you have to understand, Transjordan asks that we keep 110% of tipping fees, which would be $550,000, and then you'd have to take the rest of it out, and that could be $300,000 to $400,000, which is probably where you're getting that. But
gotcha.
We also have to remember that where we're not raising fees, we only saw catch increase $130,000 last year, and we had some expenses we didn't. Our garbage can replacement was $100,000 lower than anticipated. If that goes back up, we could go into a negative cash position within this fund balance and draw that down. So we want to be very careful of how much we take out of this.
Then my last question, where are tipping fees captured on here? Is that just the landfill?
That's the landfill,
okay.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
I just wanted to make a statement. I believe that I would like to have, for the public hearing, us come back with two options, a $3 million transfer or a $4 million transfer. I believe this is one area, because we have a contract, because it's a known, it doesn't have a lot of variance year to year, and specifically because we have a storm drain need immediately. I believe that we ought to get closer to $4 million transferred, and this is one fund that I don't think we need, the maximum in retainage on that issue. Councilmember Stoker, sorry, I didn't see everybody.
Thanks, Mayor. My green light doesn't work, so I have to rely on the blue one. One of the questions that I have is and this has kind of bugged me for a long, long time, is it appears that we continue to add funds to this balance year after year. And from the income statement that's in the staff report, it looks like we're projected to add almost another $400,000 this fiscal year to the fund. And so, that's kind of where we got here. We have $4.6 million in the solid waste fund, and we continue to put an extra $400,000 in it each year.
Sorry, I just want to correct you really quick.
And please do.
That 4.6 is, we only went up in cash $130,000 because of that $380,000 profit. We had you have payables and receivables that balance that out. So that is the actual cash we went up based on what that $381,000 will do.
So what's our average? How much are we averaging as an increase into the fund? Because I know we're not revenue neutral. I know we continue to add to the fund.
We had been averaging around $450,000 to $500,000 per year until this last year.
Okay.
When we only went up $120,000, and that's because last year we did reduce the rates within the solid waste.
We did reduce the rates.
Yes, we did reduce the rates last year in the solid waste fund.
Okay. So along with that, I kind of support what the mayor has done. He's proposing a 3 or a 4. I was going to go with a 4 until you mentioned that we reduced the rates. Now I'm kind of looking at a 3.5. I think is a good spot that keeps us around that $1 million in our cash fund. So we don't have to look at transferring money from between enterprise funds all the time.
Okay. Councilmember Shopper.
Two questions. The first one, I think you answered here, in that we did decrease, the rates went down. But is that sufficient, or we're not going to end up in the same situation? It sounds like you're confident.
Yeah, we're pretty confident right now. We've seen the contract with Waste Disposal went up, and that's going to probably cost us around $50,000 to $70,000 more this year than it did last year. We also have seen the tipping fees go up. They went from $14 a ton to $15 a ton, and that started in March of last year. So we're going to see more in that landfill charge. So I think we're going to be getting very close to breaking even. Plus, if we just have to replace more trash cans, like I said, we budgeted $218 last year. We only spent $118. That would reflect another $100,000 in there as well.
Okay. And the second question, I don't know. I don't think you have the answer to this because this is not your forte. But where we anticipate, I missed the discussion, we anticipate applying these monies once transferred to fixing, it sounds like a storm drain along 70th South. As I understand it, well, I won't say how much I think it is, but do you know the total of that project, what that project will cost?
The project right now, and Wendell, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is approximately $5 million to do that project. The idea with this transfer that we're talking about here is we would take about $500,000, as I've talked with Wendell and Dave Murphy, to do some small projects that really have a bang for our buck, and then take the remaining part and apply it to the prioritization, which right now the 70th South trunk line is a high priority within that.
So it'd be a down payment. So when was that accurate? About $5 million over 3 years, if I understand it, or is it?
That's correct.
A 3-year project. Okay. So.
That remains to be seen. I believe it's going to be expedited by the council, but That's in the plan now. We
Right.
can change that plan at any time, of course.
We'd have to have the funding source to do that, which I guess gets me to my point here, that I just wanted to make, that we can transfer the 3 million, 3.5 million, whatever the case may be, but we're still gonna have to fill that gap somehow. And I think just realization, there are ways to do that. One of them, this council turned down an increase in the storm drain fee earlier in the year. We turned that down. And now we're going and saying, oops, probably admittance. I don't know if that would be admitted, but it was probably a mistake. And now we're going to go get money somewhere else to try and fill a hole that we created. But I'm just going to say this up front, that the expectations ought to be that we're going to have to fill the rest of that hole. And we're going to have to come to terms with the fact that we're probably going to have to make some kind of increase to that in the future. I don't want to do that. But I'm just saying, I don't know if this is the forum to say that now, but I'm going to say it. That we can't expect that this is now nitpick. So I guess what point I would make is nitpick on, 30,000 here, 40,000 there, 100,000, whatever. The point being, doesn't matter. If we do 3 million or 3.5 million transfer, we're going to have to backfill it somewhere else. So let's not rob everything from this fund. Let's understand we're still going to have to find money somewhere else. So let's make sure this one is whole after we're done taking this money. That we don't cripple it. Thank you.
Not to contradict my colleague, but if we move $4 million, and if it tracks like the other projects that we've done, where we come in as much as 20% under the estimated cost of construction, and we do have, I believe, 1.5 million in the storm drain fund, we can do both projects, the 500,000 in small funds, $4 million with this, plus the 1 million that's left over. We can get it all done in 1 year without raising any fees.
It's possible, but there are others as well. So I was just saying that there's going to be more projects. There's more to do. So, but I'm hopeful too, Mayor, that we can.
I'm not hopeful. I'm assured. But Councilmember Haga.
I've heard that before.
Thanks, Mayor. So this is a utility. We need to understand what this is. This is a solid waste utility. We charge our residents a fee for garbage collection, recycling, and green waste. If I have this kind of business, I would be a happy guy. This is an income-making utility in our city. We're not gambling on how much money it's going to make based on the economy. We have so many citizens, residents, that need their garbage collected, and we need to pick it up and we charge them, and that's where we make this money. Over the years, this utility that has no capital projects, we don't have our own garbage trucks. The only thing really that's physical that we can call ours are the garbage cans, the recycle, and the green waste. So over the years, and this came out in budget discussions, we found out this fund had $4.5 million. I'm just going to round up. Thanks, Ryan. $4.5 million. And I'm just going to give some background. It was concerned. I mean, do we keep that kind of money in a utility like that just to look at it, or do we need to use it? So with a group of us, the mayor as the lead, we contacted our landfill, which is Jordan Valley Landfill, and he counseled us that in that fund, quote, I know him real well, a good city should have 110% fund balance in this account. Now, because Ryan is conservative, we want to have more of a fund balance, but $750,000 from my perspective is too much. I'm inclined with the mayor to say we have $4 million in this utility and we want to move it. We've already notified the residents, and by law we can, to another utility, which is the storm drain utility. So we're actually taking money that we've already collected from our residents, and we want to put it after the public hearing, and if it passes, into our infrastructure of storm drain. There's other things we can talk about as far as a priority, but understand this doesn't affect our general fund. This is money we make. And frankly, I agree with Councilman Stoker. I think we're overcharging our residents. I think the history shows that. Or it could just be the fact we're growing, you know. And I'd like to see when you did raise the utilities, I'll check my bill, but if you did raise solid waste, and from the year before, it went up $500,000, why did we raise the rate? So that's questionable, but I would just say we need to fix the infrastructure of our storm drain, which is its own utility. It collects money too, but it doesn't have enough money right now. And we need to fix the priority storm drains that are having flooding problems. And this transfer is going to allow us, as a council and our city, to prioritize some of these flooding areas. And so I'm going to be go bold to say we take $4 million and propose that at the public hearing. Thanks, Mayor.
Can you just bring it back and we'll set the rate at a public hearing time?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, do you want me to bring back a proposal of $4 million, $3.5 million, and $3 million as part of the resolution?
All three, then council can decide which.
And then council can make that decision. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Item C, discussion and possible action regarding resolution 14-192, approving 3.13 acre site directly north of the existing public works facility for a new fleet facility building, and for staff to proceed with a request for proposals for the design of the new fleet facility at that location. Wendell?
Jim's going to make this presentation, Mayor. Mayor and Council, as you are well aware, the fleet building that we're in right now is approaching 30 years old, and we're trying to look ahead as to what the build out of the city is going to look like in about another 30 years. Currently, the fleet building we have is inadequate for our needs at this time. We're getting by with it, which is what we're going to do until we actually have a new facility. But there's aspects of that building that are not safe as far as people working in there. Every vehicle that's pulled in has to be backed out of the location that it's in because of the way that the building has been designed. And so what we want to do is to take a look at a new fleet building that will accommodate us at some point in the future. If we were to take a look at what the city build-out is going to be in, let's say, 30 years from now, with this building we're in, about 30 years old, and we look at a building that's going to last us for another 30 years, we want to try to plan ahead. From when the staff report was put together, there's been some more discussion about let's make sure that the building we're going to propose and build out is going to be adequate for 30 years. So the site that's shown on here is the site that has been favored by staff. We looked at 4 different sites over the last probably 4 or 5 years. 2 of those sites were primarily for the relocation of public works as a whole. That philosophy has been changed to where we're now looking at just moving the fleet facility to somewhere and remodeling then the existing public works building once fleet moves out. The 2 sites that came into question are the site that's right north of the public works building in a soccer complex where we own that piece of ground. And the other site was what we kind of staff calls a 52-acre site off of 78th and 48th out there that's empty. The downside of that site is that the infrastructure is non-existent out there. We'd have to build a road into it. We'd have to bring all the utilities into it, which that makes it cost prohibitive right now. And there's perhaps other valuable issues that can be utilized in that property besides this. So we looked more heavily at what's going to be more conducive to where fleet could be located, which is right next to the existing Public Works building. And so what we have up here is, in the purple, is the 3.13 acre side. But again, after we submitted the staff report, we looked at how much land we really want to try to use to make the site accommodate a building that's going to last us for 30, 50 years out there and be large enough. So in the red, it adds about another 1.08 acres to that. But we still are going to use and eat up one soccer field if we do this, even adding the other 1.8. And if the council approves this location, we would like to ask for their approval for that additional 1.08 acres. But in doing this, we met with Parks and talked about, well, how this is going to affect the soccer leagues and how's this going to affect them out there. So we looked at some other options where we could put some fields. And I think if we can go to the next slide, Tom. We looked at 2 or 3 different options. The one shown now is probably the last one I was going to have show, but that's all right. This is the one that's the most readily available. If we wanted to have a soccer game next week, this field at Veterans Park would just have to be striped. That's the only thing you would need to do to make this area large enough. So we can move a soccer game from the field there at the soccer complex to this one, and all they have to do is stripe it. Okay, let's go to another slide, since they're kind of out of order now.
Wildflower.
This is Wildflower, and Wildflower will accommodate another field in the basin of that detention basin. The downside of this one is it really wouldn't be available until, and I know that this is under consideration, some additional parking that's shown on this, if an agreement can come up with OSI. So that's another option for a field, I guess.
Sorry to interrupt. I had a quick question on the Veterans Memorial where actually this picture will work perfectly. Where was the road slated to be that we approved earlier? I think it was the last council approved a road on that. How does that relate? And then also looking at this,
we have
would that Veterans Memorial concept allow for spectators on the sides of the field?
It left. Go back to the Veterans.
That one.
The roadway, if you can see that on there, the roadway is just south of that little play area. There's a pavilion in there and a playground, and it's just south of that, and then there's some baseball fields that the county operates. So it's kind of between that play area and the baseball fields, if that road does go through. Okay?
Councilmember Stoker has a question.
Yes, it's about where that white, somewhere this thing. It's about right here, right there. And that, it's white because it used to be a road.
So that strip down there is where the proposed road connection is going to be?
Correct, where that light strip is there, just north of the ball field.
Okay. So we're not destroying any plans for that?
Correct.
Now, my understanding was, I wasn't on the council, but that was going to be a road and parking both.
Correct.
Is that right?
It
was
fits
approved, but never funded.
And it fits in there.
Okay.
It's been designed.
Okay.
And then there was one other location that it's not coming up. It's on the east side of Ronwood Road. We still have about 8+ acres on the east side of the road. Ronwood Park is undeveloped. And that, at one time, there was a discussion of a rec center placed there, but there's discussions, as you all know, going on of placing it somewhere else. If that happens, that site then would also be available for soccer fields. Long time down the future, we know that the soccer complex is going to go away. There's 29 acres in that 52-acre site that also has to be a park or has to be open green space. That could be turned into soccer fields as well. So there's other areas that will make up for the one field that we would lose if we take that one field next to City Hall or to the Public Works building. So that's it. Do I have any questions? I guess that's about the end of the presentation.
We have two more questions. Councilmember Stoker got in, and then Councilmember Southworth after that.
Just a really quick one. If we can go back to the soccer complex site. I don't have a laser pointer, but right there, just west of the area that you're highlighting right there, it shows 2 soccer fields. And then just north of that, there is an empty space, it appears. And then you've got 2 more soccer fields north of that. I know that this Phase 1 or Phase 2 complex, I can't remember which phase it is, the part the city owns, has the 6 fields. But I'm wondering why we have the empty space there between those 2 that we can see and then the 2 that are further to the north. Can we just move that one field that we're looking to relocate and put it right between them? So we have the 5 fields in a row?
The difference is the fields are of various sizes.
And these all appear to be the same size?
They're not. The one that we're taking is a larger field. The other 2 you see there, well, you can barely see them. They're about half the size. They're for smaller kids to play on.
Jim?
So that's the issue, is that there's not enough space in that area that's empty for them to put even one more small field in there. That's why it was never put in there.
Jim, I think the confusion lies in the fact that the striping on the photo is of a smaller field, and yet if you see the faint, the grass is the indication of the bigger field that's also striped on there. So that's the one that he's representing for the other locations.
There's a field that runs this way and another field runs this way.
I'm sorry, I don't know which way you're pointing.
Yeah, they look a little, it's really odd. There's 2 fields there, though. There's two small fields. And even to the north of that, there's not enough space for another field.
The big one. It looks like there's enough space for a small one.
Probably is.
If there is,
I say put in another small field.
it takes striping is about all it would take. But we'd have to, and again, they have to look at that to see what the needs are. Was there a berm right there?
Councilmember Southworth?
Yeah, thank you. This piece we're looking at, and then directly to the west and up, and that it surrounds, all this that surrounds the parking lot, that's the city property, correct?
It's city property, correct?
Yeah, all that. When in 25, is that the year when the park goes away, the complex, the city, Salt Lake Cities, that's everything that is going to be, what's that, south of there and kind of west?
See that angle right there?
Yeah.
That angle goes on straight up to 78. So everything west of that angle is Salt Lake City property. So everything on the east side of that line is city of West Jordan property.
Which would be true to the piece of property that's directly south of the Public Works building now, correct?
Just south of the Public Works building, there's a half-acre site that we own that we bought when the Sagapis house was torn down about 3 years ago. But the parking lot that's just south of Public Works belongs to Salt Lake City.
Right, but the small, I remember where that house was. Okay, so you got the parking lot, and then you have more soccer fields. And if you were to draw a line north and south straight down the borders of Public Works,
that all belongs to Salt Lake City.
Salt Lake City. Now, I'm guessing we've entertained the idea of purchasing that from them.
No, it's not even in FAA will not allow it to be sold.
Okay.
Yeah,
so if that's the flight path, why is not Public Works building the flight path? Why isn't our, it just doesn't make sense, but never mind, the FAA doesn't.
Well, they have, it's what they call the runway protection zone. And the runway protection zone is when you see that angled line, but then they have, and Mayor might be able to know more, but they have some new technology that may someday show up at that airport, and if it does, it would increase the runway protection zone.
Yeah.
And so it's still there, and we have a map of that enlarged runway protection zone, which would then lap over into this new area, but I think that it wouldn't affect what we want to try to do in there.
Okay. Okay. So the reason I ask, when I look at this, I understand the need to new facilities, whether it's expand or move it, and unless there's I really get concerned when we take this piece of this facility that serves the citizens and the youth of our city, and we're going to cut it in a fourth of it, whatever we're going to do. I'm disinclined to think this is a good idea, unless we have some kind of plan in place that is reasonable and executable, that we have funding, that we can relocate a facility to allow what we have now, even when the Salt Lake City goes away. We have a facility where we have a lot of fields together where leagues can conduct play all in one place, and it's very convenient for the citizens. That works. Now you talk about moving a field over to Veterans Memorial or Wildflower or whatever. We need that anyway, plus this. So I'm hesitant to say that we should start removing fields, especially when we have a facility all together, and then to break it up. We're going to break that up and break up the Public Works. Which one do we want to do here? So in the future, maybe this would work if we could find a new home for this facility for soccer, youth sports, I would say. I don't even like saying one sport, but youth sports.
One of the things that the Parks Department talks about, when there's a tournament going on here, parking at this location is atrocious and the neighbors complain. If the fields were spread out in different locations throughout the city, it has less impact on those neighbors and the parking in those particular areas, especially if they're smaller kids. And they have, and this is a conversation I've had with Brian Clegg in how they would, if they were to ideally do this, that's how their thinking would be. Rather than to have one large complex, they would like to see them spread out.
Understood. If you ask the players and parents, would you rather have to deal with a lot of people parking in one place, or have to travel clear across the city back and forth for your different games? They would rather deal with the situation they have now in the parking lot.
Yeah,
I would think. So but I understand what you're saying, and we don't have to decide this now. I'm just expressing some concerns, so you can log that and say, what do we need to do here in the future? How do we keep, I don't know, you can call it continuity or whatever. You've got this great facility where you can have lots of fields and hold tournaments, and you can have leagues play in one convenient location, and to try to move, I just don't buy that. Move that all over the place.
See, like in the future, that's a council decision,
right?
Because we're going to lose all those fields, and the council's going to have to decide, what do they want to do, where do they want to put them.
It will still maintain the city, and maybe that's part of the solution. We'll still maintain this property the city has, and we have to decide: is this enough? Do we want a new, larger soccer complex or youth sports complex somewhere else? So good questions to ask. Thank you.
Councilmember Haga.
On the Public Works building, I think this is my opinion, build it big, build it for 50 years. That's all I'll say about that. I think this is a good location because of where it is within our city. But I think it's incumbent of the council that that's where I agree with Councilman Southworth, that we start focusing on where our kids are going to be displaced. And I know we've looked at 2 locations. I know exactly where they are. They make sense. But according to the county, rugby, soccer, and I'm missing one, lacrosse, that Justin's a proponent, are the fastest growing children's sports in our county. And these kind of fields we will need for our children. So, if this is the spot we choose, I think in retreat we really focus on maybe a proposal like Councilman Southward another complex somewhere. How we pay for all that, I don't know. But the kids are not going to go away. They're going to be moving out there. And 60%, that was an interesting figure from the county, are interested in rugby, soccer, and lacrosse. And this is the kind of field they want. So, not that baseball is not important or football, but there's a growth. And so anyway, long-term, big on the public works, my opinion. But let's look at, as a council, I think, and retreat and brainstorm on how we're going to provide open space fields for our children. So, thanks, Mayor.
I just have one comment. We've got 9 seasons left to deal with this soccer complex the way it is, and it's going to be, I believe, we better get on it, planning for the future, because 9 seasons seems like a long time, but I don't want to leave council, 4 years from now with a dilemma. I think that we need a strategic plan. We need to decide if we want a complex or, and I think our staff needs to be involved in that conversation, but this is going away. This is not going to be the soccer complex it is in 9 seasons. So that's not to discuss tonight, but I just think that there's been some good ideas thrown out there that we need to, the 56 acres that we have could be another complex if that's what we decide to do. We own the property, we could do what we want with it. Funding is an issue, but we need to deal with it, the same as all the parks issues. But to let Jim and the staff know that the issue comes back to, is this something that we want to move on? It's vastly needed. I've taken several tours. It is a dangerous situation what we got with the amount of equipment we have in the facility we have currently. I agree with Jim that it's an accident waiting to happen. So we need some pull-through bays. We need a facility done, and is this the place to do it? That's the decision we need to make tonight. I support this, the larger version of this with the red, because I believe that we need to build for 50 years as well, like Jim stated, Councilmember Haga. I think that let's build it once. It's almost in the center of our city, so for snow removal and everything radiates out from this location. I don't know that there's a better one. Jim made that point to me very well in our meeting. I think that that's what we should do. Councilmember Sopper.
Yeah, Mayor, really quick, and you say to make a decision tonight, I'd ask maybe if we could say, we could put this in our back pocket and say, okay, this is one of the options, and then we have a discussion. I don't know if we have to wait clear until our strategic planning, but maybe we have a council a special meeting sometime in the future, and we look, we're really zoomed in, but let's take a broad look at the map of West Jordan and say, okay, sports facilities in the future, parks, and now this, and how does this fit? Because this may be, I'm not saying this might be the best spot, because you could really utilize what we have and just build onto it. That's probably a really good idea. But now what do we do about these other facilities? Wrap that into this question that we still really haven't answered about the future of our parks. And what are we going to do there? When we started earlier in the year, we held all these public meetings, we kind of dropped the ball, well, not dropped the ball, we kind of just put it on hold. And how does that play into this decision about future facilities, play into that? I kind of like to look at those together and really have a more of a global look at it. Instead of a zoom down to this looks like we're shooting from 200 feet, let's go to the 2,000 feet or something, a bigger, wider view. So that's what I would maybe suggest we do. Thanks.
Councilmember Stoker.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree that I think this is the best place for a fleet facility. The part that really worries me is we're taking out one of our A-class soccer fields and creating a B-class field somewhere else. And whether we're trying to cram it into the Veterans Memorial, which is already crowded on Saturday mornings with baseball, or we're putting it into Wildflowers, which is just a detention basin, it feels like we're trying to we're almost creating a second-class soccer field somewhere else. And I don't want to do that. That kind of worries me a little bit. And I've kind of been thinking about things that we can do to try to make sure that we're replacing this field with another A-class field. And, you know, the thought came into my head about Ron Wood Phase 2. I don't know how close we are to that, but I know we have a bunch of land out there that is ready for additional fields. I don't know where we stand on additional funding from our parks impact fees, but I know that the Ron Wood Phase 1 was completed earlier this year. We've had some time to accumulate money in that account.
I could probably add a little bit to that. The reason it only went as far as it did is because we had about $3.5 million available in impact fees to do what we did out there.
Right.
It would take, there's another 24 acres that surround that. And it would take another, according to the architect's estimate, because he did put a possible design together for that, it would take another $3.5 to $4 million to develop that just into fields by the time you grade and sod and landscape and irrigate and everything.
Right.
And so we would just wait right now until there was enough impact fees built back up again.
Do you know how much has accumulated in impact fees over the last year and a half?
I couldn't answer that.
Not enough.
Okay.
Brian Clegg is looking at a plan to replace, what to do once the soccer complex is gone. He's part of that discussion, and he's working on a plan right now to come back to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, a motion would be in order. I believe that we're at a critical point, though. I think that we have to move on a facility. I think that the bonding climate is perfect. I think that we are far past what we need. So I'd be in favor of using this location and immediately having a RFP go out for design of the new fleet facility so we can put it in place, get construction next year. Councilmember Southworth?
Yeah, and I respect that, and I don't want to hold up what progress we think we can make, but at this time I would move that we table this item to be brought back what's the term? What do you call our special meetings? A workshop. There you go. Sorry, it must be getting late. To be brought to a workshop to be considered in concert with this plan that's being put together on the soccer complex and all of our parks in general. We have a holistic view. And the timing, I will leave that up to staff that when we are ready for that. I won't put a date on that, but at such time that they're ready to have the information for that discussion.
We have a motion. Councilmember Southworth? Seeing no second, it will die for lack of a second. Is there an alternative motion? Councilmember Hager.
Mayor, I move to adopt Resolution 14192 approving, let me make sure that we're including the red zone.
4.12.
4.12 acres side directly north.
Excuse me, 4.21. Excuse me.
4.21 acres side directly north of the existing public works facility for the new fleet facility building, and for staff to proceed with request for proposal for the design of the new fleet facility at that location.
We have a motion by Councilmember Hager. I will second for discussion. Councilmember Stover.
I'm worried that this motion doesn't consider the replacement of the soccer field. Either at least as a temporary solution.
You mean you want those other alternatives added?
Right, even if we were to call out X or Y field as a temporary solution, I don't think the motion considers a replacement of the field. I don't mean to speak against the motion, I'm just a comment.
Just a point of clarification, Brian Clegg is the one that lined up these, spec'd out these other field locations, so I don't know, I'm not gonna, if that's part of it, if that's a concern, we have, take out one field and replace it with, I believe there's enough for 3 fields to replace it, and there's a drastic need for soccer fields. We could add 3 fields immediately, as I understand it, next season, based on what, I know Brian went out and made the measurements and checked the area, and I believe we need the 3 fields. I would support Brian in utilize. We're already paying to water the grass, mow the grass, and take care of it. All that needs to be is striped, and we can add that as a component. But
I'll amend that to direct park staff to locate a new location for, you call this, Councilman Stoker, a Class A field?
Yeah, just a temporary location for substitute fields.
For this Class A.
Well, we're not going to get a Class A field like this in any park. It would have to be a temporary solution until something like Ron Wood or another complex is built.
Direct staff then come back with solutions to satisfy the needs of the loss of this field and basically the proposals for the other locations.
I'll accept that amendment. That's a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, let's vote.
Councilmember Southworth?
No.
Councilmember Hanson?
No.
Councilmember Stoker?
Yes.
Councilmember Haga?
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols?
No.
Mayor Robb?
Yes.
Vote fails 3-3.
We had, so we voted both sides. Okay. Last item on the agenda. Discussion and possible action regarding Resolution 14-193, declaring the City of West Jordan City Council official policy supporting the Salt Lake County Proposal Number 1, the Zoo, Parks, and Recreation, or ZAP, tax. And this is, I went to the special county council meeting to discuss this. They feel like there's about 70% support countywide for this. I just wanted to put a resolution from this city council. I believe because of our need for recreation center on the west side, we need to support this, and that would be my opinion. Councilmember Stoker.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of years ago, the county went out and bonded for a bunch of parks, some regional parks, some in Harriman, some in West Valley, and at the time, there wasn't really anything that they were doing in West Jordan with any of that park bond. And started talking with some of our neighbors, both to the east and to the south, and they brought to my attention that with the approval of that bond, and it eventually did get approved, it bumped up a bunch of West Jordan projects up to the top of the list. A rec center on the west side of the city and some other parks and stuff. So we really stand to benefit greatly from the ZAP renewal. Where we didn't really benefit too greatly from that park bond. What that park bond did is it moved West Jordan to the top of the list. And it's almost like having the gift right in front of you at this point, and it just makes sense to kind of support it. If you look at the priority list, West Jordan is primed to receive a great deal of benefit from this. And so I would encourage support of this project.
I'd just like to comment on that. Because of what you just described, it even gives us a leg up on everyone else because we've been kind of left out. So I agree with Councilmember Stoker, I think that's fine time. Councilmember Nichols.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll right off of that and say, yes, it is prime time, and the reason I say it's prime time is because I am actually very upset historically at Zap Fund. I mean, it is so disproportionate as West Jordan residents, it's sickening. And just some facts, just for the public to hear it. $13.3 million is last year in Zap funds. West Jordan got $18,000. That's less than 0.2% of total funds of Zap funds. We're 10% of Salt Lake County population. 10% of that, if we got 10% of the funds, we should be getting about $1.3 million a year for our arts and parks. I mean, it's ridiculous. And I would vote support for this only if I can get some agreement from the county that they're going to start to correct that. I mean, if we could get 10%, can you imagine what we could do with 1.3 million? I mean, we could buy that lot from the county next door and not give away our property next door. I mean, that's the kind of things I'm talking about. It is so lopsided, and the county needs to know it, and they need to get that back to us. $18,000 is it's like a nickel in your pocket. That's all it is. And so I would support this only as a council, if we're willing to step up to the county and get the county council representatives to get our proportion of this back to us. It's time.
I just want to make clear, I think we've talked about in closed session some of the things that we're working on, and
I just want
we couldn't talk to it. Yeah,
I just want the public to know
totally
it's been so disproportionate historically. It's time.
I totally agree with you. Councilmember Hager.
Thanks, Councilman Nichols. I agree with you. You know, actually, I think you'll find that our county reps know that. They came to us, and I think it's our job as the political body. Let's make sure we get our share. It'll pass.
We need to get
more of our share.
We need to get some payback for all the years that we've.
But voting for this, I think, shows our political leaders that are the only ones really lobbying this, that we support them, and I think it'll come back to us.
I agree.
Councilmember Stoker, a motion would be in order.
I move that we approve Resolution 14-193.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Stoker and a second by Councilmember Nichols. Discussion to the motion? Seeing none, let's vote.
Councilmember Stoker?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Well, okay. Councilmember Stoker. I chose the wrong column. Sorry. Yes. Councilmember Southworth.
Aye.
Mayor Rojas.
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols.
Yes.
Councilmember Hanson.
Yes.
Councilmember Hagan.
Yes.
The vote passes 6 in favor.
Since I've already voted.
Okay, thank you. That concludes the evening, and look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
On my ballot.
We got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Let's go.
Right.
If anybody agreed with you, get up and get home.